Ready, Sean? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Lewisboro Town Board meeting of Monday, September 18th, 2023. For those here in the room, there's an exit to the front of the building and an exit to the rear of the building. And if you will, please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll start with the first public comment. Anyone in the room would like to comment?
Good evening. My name is Glenn DeFaber, Cross River, New York. I'd like to comment or ask questions regarding F resolution CEQA for the bicycle and infrastructure safety improvement. Now, from what I understand, this is conceptualized drawings for the potential sidewalks that haven't been approved by the voters. So I have to apologize. I'm not too smart. And I know you guys are very smart. You do things the new way. Why would we be doing this before it was approved by the voters? And what really those plans that I saw drawn were really beautiful. Who paid for that? Could it have been paid possibly by the bond council that will be making money? Are we going to borrow, or are we going to pay the bond council for a bond that might not go through, but they still get paid? Is it that important that we do this now? Then you could do it in December, January. We've never had it in town. So why are we spending money that we don't have?
Which is what we're trying to fight for in Lewisboro. And not only is it the fastest growing sport, as all of you should know, but its appeal spans across the age groups and make it a community friendly activity, which is what we want. As all the neighboring towns invest in pickleball facilities, Lewisboro still is behind. We have no dedicated pickleball courts. And if we did, we would not only cater to the needs of our current residents, but also attract potential home buyers. It's one of the ideas that I have, and increasing our property values. It's not just a sport, it's a community builder. With dedicated courts, I think we can foster community events, tournaments, other related activities, and engage residents and bring us all together. Besides the social benefits, that pickleball provides a fun and important way for residents to stay active and healthy, which is very important. It is a sport that can be played by all ages. Right now, I think John Jay Intermediate School is offering it as part of their curriculum. So it's a sport that promotes intergenerational interaction and physical fitness being key. We should try to make a forward thinking decision. We would be investing in our community's growth, prosperity, and well-being with dedicated pickleball courts. We would like this to be consideration when you discuss the Parks and Recreation budget later this evening. I couldn't say for the second part, so I figured I'd better speak now. And I just want to thank Nicole Fabiola for being very supportive. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank
Got a note on sound on Zoom.
Just a second, Sean, they couldn't hear on Zoom. Is there something we can do about the mic?
There was an issue here. I got it fixed.
Okay, thank you. So for the people on Zoom, Ida was speaking on the benefits of pickleball and then the importance of community well-being and health. And she didn't mention mental health, but it's also good for that as well.
Anybody else would like to speak? You're in the room? No? How about Zoom, Janet?
Wait.
Oh, wait.
I just wanted all pickleballs to go first.
Okay.
There's a fan club. Hi, everybody. My name is Elena Dunn. I'm from South Salem. And I wanted to thank the entire town board on the behalf of the library board trustees for helping out with our library fair a couple weeks ago. Everybody up there has played an important role, from donation days to teaching us how to recycle garbage properly, dunk tanking, supporting with other community organizations, and also for bidding on our silent auction items. So I really want to thank you all. It is a great event. The weather was a little iffy and we were concerned and stressed, but we did a great job, and thanks to all of you. Also tonight, I'm very thrilled that the town is recognizing Cindy Rubino for her milestone as 20 years of library director. And I think this is important for the entire town. Everybody knows Cindy. I mean, as soon as you walk in the library, you could find her. And libraries are one of the most important things for a town to have. If you have a great library, you're going to have a great town. So thank you for recognizing Cindy at this milestone. Thank you.
Anybody else here? One time? No? How about on Zoom?
Yes. Simone O'Connor, I'm asking you to unmute.
Good evening. I just have a quick question. I heard a couple of weeks ago that we got a new chief of staff before our last town board meeting. I don't know if this is true, but if it is, why wasn't it announced and what exactly happened? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Simone. That's it, Tony.
That's it? Okay. All right, so we'll move on to communications. And I have a couple of things. I guess we'll start with the proclamation that Elena mentioned. So I'll go ahead and read the proclamation.
Would you mind if I read it?
Oh, yeah, no, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Stand here.
Resolution adopted by the town board of the town of Lewisboro at a meeting held on September 18th, 2023. Whereas Cindy Rubino was hired as director of the South Salem Library on July 3rd, 2003, and has served as the Lewisboro community for over 20 years as library director. Whereas Cindy Rubino was instrumental in the renovation of the Lewisboro Library, including a multi-year efforts of fundraising, design, and construction, as well as the creation of a temporary library during the building process, and increased it by 33% usable space. That's not in the proclamation. Whereas Cindy Rubino applied for and received 6 New York State Library construction grants to fund capital projects, including those to make the library more accessible to all by installing electronic doors and wheelchair lift. Whereas as director of the library, Cindy Rubino oversees a talented and experienced and professional staff and offers extensive programming for community members of all ages, including book clubs, robotics, technology, museums, gaming, crafting, painting, summer reading, music, history, and films. Whereas Cindy Rubino applied for and received 2 Paycheck Protection Program loans from the federal government during the pandemic, which kept the library staff employed, ensured the library's financial security, and created ways to serve our community with curbside pickup, virtual programs, and expanded digital content. Whereas under the leadership of Cindy Rubino, the Lewisboro Library was recognized with the Westchester County 2023 Leadership Award in recognition of its work to foster and support Westchester's LGBTQIA+ community. Whereas Cindy Rubino fostered partnerships with community organizations such as the Town of Lewisboro Parks and Recreation Senior Program, the Town Historian, Lewisboro Garden Club, Scouts, and the Katona Lewisboro School District. Whereas Cindy Rubino has attended countless meetings, sent and received thousands of emails, trained many new staff members, community volunteers, and library trustees, all to ensure that Lewisboro Library remains the heart of the community. Therefore, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Lewisboro, in recognition of her contribution, does hereby offer the congratulations and eternal thanks of its populace to Cindy Rubino, and be it further resolved that this resolution be spread upon the minutes of this September 18th, 2023 town board meeting for future generations to see, and that this resolution be presented to Cindy Rubino, dated at South Salem, New York, on this 18th day of September 2023.
You could run and get, photo op.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Great, thank you. Right.
Dana, did you get one?
Okay.
I have communication.
Okay, good. Okay, I have one more item for communications, and then Andrea has one as well. This is regarding the Route 35 paving. I think, as most of you may have known or may have heard, we were supposed to get a section of Route 35 paved this summer. DOT were unable to get bids for the night paving. There's an option to pave during the day. Later in the year, meaning the fall, which would be a major disruption to the residents, and also, with kids in school and traffic on 35. So we agreed with them that rather than do the day paving, we would push out to next year to do the night paving. But at the same time, we requested, since it's a new budget year, can they pave more, a greater extent of 35? So they came back to us late last week saying that they have an approved project for next year. I'm going to read this. This came off of it's actually on their website as well, so it's official.
Hot off the press.
Hot off the press. It is a project ID number 881650. Description: the project will correct pavement deficiencies found on State Route 35 from Route 22, Bedford, to Boughton Road in the town of Lewisboro. So this is a much longer scope for repaving that segment of 35. The work will primarily consist of milling the existing pavement and resurfacing the roadway with the warm mix asphalt overlay to the road surface to extend its service life and improve the quality and safety of the pavement. Additionally, general drainage and signal improvements will be made where practicable within the scope of this maintenance paving project. The new limits are from Route 22 to Boughton Road, and then they give the mile markers. It's approximately 7 miles, 6 point.
New signal, what's that?
Let's see, signal improvements. We've been requesting for a signal improvement on the Route 35 traffic light because of the timing. So I think that's part of it. I asked for more detail. I haven't gotten that yet. They said they will get back to me with it. The project status, the current status of the project is in development. The bid opening is expected to be winter 2023-2024. Construction is expected to begin in the spring of 2024. And construction is expected to be completed in the fall of 2024. The cost of the project is approximately $4.15 million. The prior project was roughly $1 million and change, so they've quadrupled.
And And then, so this is about you said almost 7 miles on this one?
Yes,
And
yes,
and the one we had before was not a mile,
Mile.
maybe.
maybe that much, yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, that's,
So this is, I mean,
State
we,
is paying for that.
correct, this is, all the funding is coming from the state for this,
so
correct.
it's great news. Congratulations, Tony. I mean,
And I have to. I have to also, I mean, we had a meeting on site in August of 22 with the regional director of DOT. And that meeting included myself, Chris Burdick, our assembly member, Senator Pete Harcum, and our county legislator, Erica Pierce. They listened to us. They knew this was important to us, and they went ahead. I mean, ideally, we would have wanted something done this year, but we're getting something bigger and better next year. So this is it's a great, in terms of safety of that roadway, this is critical. And it goes along, I mean, 35 is, when we talk about paving roads in town, that is the road that most people complain about. So we're finally getting it done.
well, it's also a great accomplishment in leveraging the relationships that we have with our state partners, DOT, as well as our elected assemblymen and
Correct,
state senators.
right.
Having that deep relationship that town of Lewisboro has.
Right.
Is able to hear us, have an audience, and be
Yep.
able to turn into something that's gonna really improve road conditions, which people in town have been talking about. So we're gonna get close to 7 miles addressed on Route 35 through state DOT.
Correct. Yeah.
Congratulations, Tony.
Thank you. And just to add one more, I mean, we've been talking a lot about the pedestrian bicycle safety improvements and sidewalks and crosswalks. I am trying to get crosswalks as part of this, so we'll see. I put in another message to them today to see if they can incorporate that as part of the safety improvements that they said they would be doing as part of this project. So we'll keep you all posted.
I can wait for
And-
polling the board. This is where the police announcements from.
Oh,
the
yeah, that's
department,
for-
So
that's
I'll
for-
wait for polling the
Okay,
board.
okay. All right, next, old business. No, I'm sorry, consent agenda. So we have the minutes of August 28th, the building department report and the police department report. So it's a motion, we approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, old business, the tree ordinance, we're moving that to a later town board meeting, so we're not going to be discussing that tonight. I do have it's an old business item that was not on the agenda, but we need to put it on. So back in July 24th, the board appointed Sean Johannesson to title of maintenance worker repair step 1, subject to New York State Civil Service law, rules, and regulations. And commencing at payroll period 18 and subject to the New York State Civil Service law, rules, and regulations. So civil service took a little while to get back to us. So we have to modify this resolution or pass a new resolution where we're going to say that the payroll period that this would commence at would be payroll period number 19, right? So motion to, do we need to, Greg, do we need to do anything with the
Just make a motion to amend the
To
July
amend.
24th resolution.
Okay, so motion to amend the July 24th resolution. Whereas the payroll period that Sean Johansson would start as maintenance worker repair step 1 would be payroll period number 19. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I'm gonna juggle a couple things around just to take care of. I know I was gonna have Nicole talk about the Parks and Rec budget. You're saying for exec session, so I was hoping to get you out of here sooner because you have little ones. But what I'm gonna do is have before we get into the budget, I'm gonna start with Valerie Monastro and Katie McGinn, who I think are online. And we're gonna do a quick comprehensive plan quarterly update. So John, if you can let them in.
Katie is,
Before you get to that, you just tell everybody the departments that we're gonna
Oh,
talk
so-
about today, so for coming attractions.
So, yeah, so we had the library budget, Parks and Rec budget, the maintenance budget, and the highway budget on the agenda. The highway budget's being moved to the next meeting, next week on Tuesday. And what we're gonna do in terms of the other 3 departments. We're going to have Nisha Singh, our controller, give us an overview of the requested budgets. And so that'll give a good synopsis of where we are currently. And then we're going to have Cindy Rubino talk about specifically about the library budget, and Nicole is here to answer any questions or providing additional input regarding the Parks and Rec budget. And Joel is here also for the maintenance budget. And just so everyone knows, we have the requested budget, which then gets, after we have these meetings and discussions, it'll lead into a tentative budget, which then gets submitted to the town clerk for posting and filing. And then we go on to the
budget.
It's a supervisor's budget, correct? And then we from that we go to a preliminary budget, and then the preliminary budget gets turned into an adopted budget once we're done with all the reviews.
Do you know when we have to have that adopted this year? Like in December, usually it's.
I actually have the dates here. So the adoption of budget is December 20th per county law.
On the month.
The public hearing is December 10th, again, per county law. And then the tentative budget filed with the town clerk is October 30th. Okay, so we'll start with, let me see if.
Hi, everybody. I can share my screen if that's easier via Zoom.
That works. I'm just gonna put it up on my screen here as well, so people here in the room can see it.
Did you also want Valerie?
Yeah, Valerie should be unmuted as well.
Yeah.
Right. Why is this not? Hold on a second.
I just need the screen sharing enabled on Zoom.
Why didn't you just let me show?
Yeah, can you do that, Sean?
That's one for you. I'm not worried about that.
Hold on one second, Katie.
Sure.
Oh, wait a minute.
There we go. I see it behind you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody. I'm Katie McGinn. I'm the chair of the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. And for tonight's quarterly update, I will try to keep things as brief as possible. I know you guys have a very full agenda, but we really appreciate your time as a board. These quarterly updates are so important to make sure that the steering committee and the town board and the town of Lewisboro and the community are all in the loop about what's happening with the project and have the most up-to-date information. So with that, quick thank yous to everybody who participated in the first two rounds of public meetings for the Comprehensive Plan Update Project, to our over 100 community outreach team volunteers, to the steering committee, to the chairs of the planning board, zoning board, and ACARC, who have been really involved throughout the whole process, to our town board liaisons, Andrea Rendo and Dan Welsh, and to the NPV consulting team. Valerie's here with us tonight. And then also big thank you to the Hudson River Valley Greenway for awarding the town of Lewisboro the $20,000 grant to help fund this project. So I will just do a quick review of committee and board roles and project phases. And then we have a couple topics we really would like the board's input on. I included in the presentation information about all the community outreach and advertising methods that we've used and the actual numbers on community participation. I know we've discussed those at previous town board meetings in the past, and you have all this information via email. It's also posted to our website, so we don't need to go into those, but I just included them in case anyone has any questions. Okay, so first, a quick refresher. The steering committee's mission is to engage the Lewisboro community in order to inform the future of our town and capture this vision in an updated comprehensive plan. Our mission is also to ensure fair and equal opportunities for all members of the community to provide input throughout this multi-year process. going on 2+ years now. A quick reminder about committee and board roles. So the steering committee itself, we're managing the process and ensuring that public input has been provided directly to the consulting team. We also want to make sure everything is inclusive and wide-reaching as possible. And I'll note also that the project stays on budget. Recently, over the summer, we formed the zoning subcommittee of the steering committee. And the purpose of that committee is to review the first draft of the consultant team zoning recommendations with an eye towards consistency and practical implementation. So with this, we're hoping to limit the total round of revisions that are required for drafting the zoning code updates. The boards and councils that actually implement the code on an ongoing basis are part of the subcommittee. So this will streamline the process and importantly help us keep the project on budget. So that subcommittee includes planning board chair, ACARC chair, zoning board of appeals chair, CAC chair, and our 2 town board liaisons, myself and one other member of the steering committee who is also a member of the planning board. So we really want to have the people that are implementing the code on a regular basis give that a look ahead of time. We've got the consultant team. They're the ones who are actually translating the public input into the actionable goals, objectives, and recommendations. And they're the ones who are drafting the updated plan itself and the zoning code amendments. And then the town board, you will be reviewing and have been reviewing draft materials along the way to provide advanced questions or concerns. And you are the ultimate decision makers who will vote to approve or not the updated comprehensive plan. So just a quick note on that. The town board involvement and input so far, we've had ongoing quarterly updates. Tonight is actually our 9th quarterly update. We've had regular email updates and requests. We've had your ongoing participations in our workshops and surveys. In June this year, we had a joint board meeting with the town board, planning board, ZBA, ACARC, and CAC to provide input on what was then the draft goals, objectives, and vision statement. Right tonight, we're going to have a quick discussion with NPV on part of the project plan and the specific deliverables. And then in October through December, this I already shared with you over email, board members, but I just wanted to highlight, you're going to have opportunities to review the early drafts of the zoning code update. So keep an eye out for that when the NPV consulting team sends the zoning subcommittee the red line changes to the zoning code. I'll be sharing those with you as well so that you can look, ask questions, raise concerns. This whole slide, everything I've just walked through, the goals here really are so that you have the opportunities to ask questions and raise concerns throughout the process. And when the final drafts are ready for your vote, there won't be any surprises. All of these draft reports have been across your desk, and same with the public. Everyone has had a chance to see everything over the past 2 years and participate in the process. So when we get to the end, there really shouldn't be any surprises for anyone. Speaking of the end, we are close. We completed 2 out of the 3 phases of the project. Introductory phase was back 2 years ago, over 2 years ago at this point. Community engagement phase, we formed our community outreach teams. We had the first series of workshops. We had in-person, virtual, and online options. That was the draft vision, goals, and objectives. Then we had workshop series 2, which were workshops focused on the town and hamlets, and those were in person as well as online survey. Then we had the joint meeting that I just mentioned that was this summer with all the boards. And the community engagement phase, all of that was focused on developing and then actually reviewing the draft vision, goals, and objectives. So the updated goals, vision, objectives, which are the basis for the updated plan, those are all posted to the comprehensive plan website. And they reflect all of the feedback and input that was collected from the public and from the various boards in the second phase of the project. So the third phase, the plan update phase, this is where we are now. The consulting team is actually drafting the plan itself and the zoning amendments. And then we're going to have community input on that draft through another workshop and through public hearings, and then the town vote at the very end. So before I go further, any questions from the town board?
Yes, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Just during the phase where you're going to be discussing potential zoning code changes, you consulting with counsel during that part of it, or just getting some legal input during that part of it?
That's a great question, and thank you so much for bringing that up. So we have proposed having the town council, the planning board council, and also the town planner involved in the process, at least, being shared the drafts. But I'm glad you brought that up, because I would love to just get the board's feeling on that. That's something that you're all in favor of. And if it should be all three, that was three, right? Yes, planning board, town council, and planner. If you're on board with having all three of them take a look at the drafts.
No, that sounds like a good idea. Just they're in real time, they're going to have an opportunity to just weigh in. So getting their input along the way sounds like a good idea.
Great, fantastic. Okay, so keep an eye on your emails. The first round of changes for the zoning code will be coming in by the end of October. So we'll make sure to loop in those three people as well.
I've got something, I don't know if it's a question or just a reminder or whatever. We had talked about doing some sort of outreach for the short-term rental thing, whether we're going to hold a hearing here or engage the planning consultant to organize something. Or I don't think we made our mind up finally on how we're going to handle that. So just between now and then, that's another thing.
Okay, yeah, we're waiting for the board's guidance on that. As of now, because we didn't hear a final decision from you, we're going to proceed as planned, and that feedback regarding short-term rentals is just one small part and parcel of the process. So if you would like to give us direction about how we should treat that or incorporate that into the process going forward, then yeah, definitely let us know. Any other questions?
Nope, I think we're good, Katie.
Okay, so just a reminder for the public and for board members as well, our webpage has tons of information, and the town website has a Google Translate button in the bottom right corner of the page, or all the way at the bottom if you're looking on your mobile phone. You can send us an email to join our mailing list. You can still get involved in a community outreach team. It's not too late. And then there'll be more public meetings to get involved in going forward. And that's our dedicated email address and our page on the town website. Okay, so for round 3 workshops. So we have something that we need the town board's input on. So one is timing and the other is format. Timing, the goal of round 3 workshops is to review public review and feedback on the draft comprehensive plan and the draft zoning code updates amendments. So option 1 is to have the workshops in late November or early December. And then there's going to be public hearings too. And we're assuming those are going to happen in early 2024. Option 2 is to push out the workshop itself to early 2024 and then have the public hearing in early 2024 as well. So I know November, December are busy times of year, but probably that first week in December, we might be able to sneak something in. So feelings from the board about option 1 versus option 2?
Honestly, I think option 2 is better. That's me personally. I think that for many people, between children and working and things, that between the end of November and the end of December, there's way too many things going on, and I don't think we'll get the participation that we would hope for. If we wait until the holidays and travel time is over, I think that increases the likelihood that we'll have more people participating and giving feedback. That's just my thought.
It's a very.
Yeah, I would agree.
I agree with
So-
that thought as well. And also in early 2024, people will be looking for things to do, and it's a great way of getting together and making a difference for the community.
I agree, but based upon what we just discussed, having a 60 to 90-day window for council to circulate and review the zoning code proposals is good use of time in the interim, so.
Yes.
So it serves many purposes.
Dan?
I'm okay with that. I'm maybe a little concerned as things get dragged out that people kind of drop off in terms of their connection to the thing and the thinking that they were done up to now, but that seems to be the consensus, so I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That's super helpful. And to your point, Dan, we can do, we still have our mailing list and all our outreach teams active, so we can do a little extension of the Did You Know campaign that we did earlier this year, just to keep reminding people that the process is ongoing and that it'll be finishing up in early 2024.
Great.
Okay, second item, the format for that workshop. So what we have room in the budget for is a virtual workshop via Zoom. And this is just the workshop. The town board hearings are something separate. So 1.5 hours via Zoom. We were thinking maybe if it would be possible to have it at the townhouse as well. It could be virtual with an in-person option for people that really, really want to attend in person or don't feel comfortable using the online technology. Option 2 would be additional budget would be required for 2 separate dates and times, one virtual and one in person.
I'm leaning towards option 1. I think that for these particular workshops, I think we have a likelihood of more people participating by Zoom when they don't have to show up in person. I'm pretty impressed with how we got turnout out on the weekends over these past few months, but I think that if we do virtual, that we're going to get more feedback. Anybody?
I just have a question, Katie, on option 1 where it says possible in-person option. Is that in lieu of the Zoom?
No, it's combined.
So there is,
Hybrid, no? Is
So it's a
option 1 essentially a hybrid?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I
okay.
guess the question of if that would, I guess we would need the townhouse and we would need the staff to help us with the
right.
technology.
So the question mark is whether or not the townhouse is available for that.
Well, no, it's also, do we want to do just Zoom? Or do we want to do Zoom with an in-person option?
Right.
Because if we do 2 separate meetings, then we go outside the budget.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's option 1 is either virtual or in person or hybrid. That's option 1. Option 2 is 2 separate
Right.
meetings.
Okay.
Mhm.
Did I get that right, Katie?
Yes, although we would say we've committed to having online options available for every phase of the project. So we do need to have a virtual meeting in some capacity. So
Seems to me hybrid allows the Zoom people to hear the questions that the people who are physically present raise and vice versa, and why not?
I like the idea of the hybrid version, since we are all in the habit of doing that for the town board meetings.
Okay. Rich, hybrid okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so hybrid it is.
okay, great. And we have plenty of time to figure out the scheduling and day of the week, weekday versus Sunday. I think if it was gonna be on a weekend, it would have to be Sunday evening. But weekdays, we could, Monday through Thursday. Any particular strong feelings one way or another there?
When do you need to know by? Because I have to think about that one. Can we-
Yeah, we can wait till next month, probably.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, good.
With
That's
family-
that's a homework
family
item.
to consult on that.
And just to clarify, we're calling it a workshop. I'm imagining that it starts off with the presentation by the
Yeah.
planner of all the new documentation.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, because this is reviewing the entire plan and the entire zoning code update recommendations, it needs that introductory presentation to kind of ground everybody in. These are the highlights. If you didn't read the hundreds of pages, here are the high points, and then sort of a typical town hall question and answer session.
And the hearings are yet to come, so it seems to me the questions at this stage should just be about trying to understand what you're seeing, what you're reading, so that you then can go back, either we can go back or individuals can go back and think more about this in preparation for more complete comments and the subsequent hearings. Is that reasonable? I mean, in other words, we're not having the whole hearing. I want people to have their expectations such that they think it's going to put the whole thing to bed in that session.
Well, I think the pretty good clue is the word workshop.
Yeah. But I'm just expecting people want to get their pet thing in there and get it done. And I think it's more about, just making sure everybody has all the material and understands it.
And the material will be available prior to the workshop, right, Katie? So people can take a look at it and go to the sections that they find important and before the workshop, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And that's another good reason that it's going to be happening in early 2024. It'll be ready well before then. So there'll be lots of time for folks to dig into it and formulate their questions. But yes, absolutely. It's a workshop. It's meant to gather up all of the final input from the public. That way it can be further incorporated into the plan. The plan can be refined. And then what is ready for the hearings is the actual final draft that will be up for a vote.
Okay.
Great. Okay. So I don't need to go into my appendices. I want to pass it off to Valerie in a minute, but are there any other just general comments or questions or concerns from the board about the work these past basically since our last update was when the round 2 workshops were actually happening? So any just general comments or questions from that point to now?
Just general comment as usual. Great job. And
Yes.
you guys are awesome.
Well, thank you to the committee for doing the work that you have from before the second round through right now.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Okay, I think
So
we can pass
thank you,
it off to Valerie. She's gonna walk you through another important item that we want the town board's input on before we move forward with it.
Thanks,
I-
Katie.
I'll share.
If it's possible, can we also give Michael Haggerty, who's from Star White House, one of the subs as part of the MPV team for the comprehensive plan, ability to speak as well?
Sure. Michael Haggerty. Got it.
She's having those issues.
Great. So I'll just start. I'm going to do a very quick introduction. So we actually, as part of the overall team and approach, we have a design expert on the team in Star White House. You can go down, Katie, to the 3 different options. And I think, Michael, I think he's still not unmuted. So if there's a possibility to unmute him, that'd be great. So we have some budget set aside to allow for certain design elements to be incorporated into the comprehensive plan. And one of the things that we wanted to talk to the board tonight was about 3 different options. So typically in a comprehensive plan, sometimes we'll have, for example, a firm like Star White House come in and look at particular opportunity sites or certain elements that seem to be in need of maybe some design guidelines or some concept plans during a comprehensive plan process. In this particular case, a particular opportunity sites or very specific areas did not come to light as part of the public feedback, but what did come to light were a number of goals and objectives that really relate to certain design elements. And so Michael and his team took a look at all the goals and objectives as part of the draft goals and objectives as part of the comprehensive plan process, and identified 3 different potential scopes that they could undertake within the budget to look at incorporating some additional design elements into the comprehensive plan. So I'm going to pass it over to Michael to talk a little bit about his thoughts, his ideas, and then to answer any questions that the board might have. And we're looking to see if the board is interested in pursuing one of the 3 different options. Michael?
Thanks. Hi, everybody. So I'm Michael Haggerty with Star White House Landscape Architects and Planners, and we're a design company in New York. And we're on the team because we design parks, open space systems, are experts in public space and streetscape and trail and greenway design, and work throughout Westchester and upstate and New York City. The feedback that we're seeking on the scope items here will be really helpful to understand which of the goals in the plan we can complement with some greater detail around design and best practices. And just a distinction we wanted to make here is that this scope would be in the form of supplementary text and illustration or appendices in the plan that illustrate and give more detail to the kind of outcomes that the town wants to see from the goals. And that's a little different than something that would be enforceable and incorporated into the zoning. So we're seeking here to establish precedents and guidelines and guidance rather than incorporate this into the zoning. So the 3 options here relate to some of the goals in the plan. And the first option here to develop some material around a multimodal integration of your trail plan, that really speaks to the transportation goals. And we recognize that the town has a bicycle plan that was done about 10 years ago that you're in the process of implementing. And I think some of that may be on the agenda for later tonight. And so what we would do with this scope item would be to fully illustrate the planned trail network and pedestrian connections throughout the town. We could do some work to show what has been implemented and what remains to be implemented, and also work with you to identify if there's any additional items or projects that the town wants to add to the plan. And then we'd illustrate that through typical sections of complete streets or greenway design or precedents of signage and wayfinding. So the goal there would be to show examples of what these projects may look like as they're done for the bike network to connect the hamlets and the town park system and schools. So the next slide, Valerie. The second scope item to consider is in support of the community facilities goals. Here, we were discussing creating guidelines for accessibility and inclusion in public spaces and facilities in the town. This would, of course, look at standards for ADA requirements. But landscape architects and urban planners are thinking much more broadly about accessibility and inclusion these days, and incorporating ideas around making public spaces, play spaces, street furnishings, and other elements of the built environment work for people of all abilities. So what we might do here is look at the literature and look at precedents, and illustrate how principles of inclusive design can help people with disabilities engage play or public spaces. We could cite best practice for intergenerational design, and also look at what are the typical products that are out there right now in terms of street furnishings or play or fitness that you might incorporate into new or renovated parks or public spaces that the town is doing. And so the third slide, Valerie. The third approach here is in support of the community character goal. And this scope would look at the downtown areas of the hamlets and provide spatial and visual guidance for the elements of the public realm and streetscape. And so these guidelines could illustrate outcomes that the town desires both for public facilities and publicly owned properties, but also commercial or private properties that have public facing frontages. And so for these guidelines, what we might look at would be typical street sections, landscape design. One thing that you can do that is especially helpful for commercial owners is to provide a plant palette of the types of native plantings and vegetation that you'd like to see along public rights of way, furnishing, lighting, wayfinding, and environmental and maintenance considerations. And again, we'd be illustrating these through precedents, through product cut sheets and best practices. But the goal of the guidelines would really be to illustrate, what kind of outcomes the town would like to see in the hamlet downtowns. So we're here to answer any questions or clarifications that you have about these, and also seeking your input on which of these three options would bring the most value to the comprehensive plan.
Mr. Haverty, when do you need our response? Right now, or could it be?
Yeah, if the board can't give a response today, I think that's fine, and I defer to Valerie on the timeline for that.
Yeah, because that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I think it'd be great to bring the Hamlet committees in to get their input on this, as well as the pedestrian bike committee, and see where they'd like to, where they would find the most value in all of this sort of portfolio of things here.
See positive and the negatives of all three, and would like the input of the community.
We need to have discussion.
Yeah.
This isn't something we can decide tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the objective is to select one of these three approaches, is that correct?
So each one of the approaches would work within the budget, clearly if the town were interested in doing more than that, we have the ability to do it, but we're trying to keep focus on keeping everything within the budget. So each one of those would allow for that to take place.
Right, okay.
Got it.
Ideally, we would like probably, an answer on this within the next, I understand maybe you might not be able to do it by the next board meeting, but maybe the board meeting after that, because we want to make sure that we're able to give Michael plenty of time to, do the work and then to still keep it on track for having it as part of the draft comprehensive plan.
Of course.
Okay.
And clarification, so all three of those options are indeed within the scope and the budget of the project, Valerie?
So options 1 and 2 are, and options 3 is, and then it would just depend on the final amount, the final nuances of the scope, because something like design guidelines can become definitely a much bigger project. And Michael, would you like to weigh in on that a little bit?
Yeah, so each of the three approaches was designed to fit as a standalone project within the scope that we have. And so if we wanted to do more than one of those approaches, then that would be a budget consideration for the board and for Kate and Valerie and the team. The nuance of the third option, the Hamlet downtown design guidelines, is design guidelines can be written on a whole spectrum of very kind of broad brush and high level principles and goals to very specific detailed illustrations of street sections and street furniture and those sorts of things. And so if the town sees a need for the Hamlet design guidelines, I think that's something where we would have a follow-up discussion to define the level of detail that's needed and how they would be utilized by the town, and go from there regarding how it fits within the scope.
I shouldn't be jumping the gun, but I imagine trying to get 3 Hamlets to agree on sort of aesthetic standards is that's not a task I would necessarily want to undertake. Whereas I could see like sort of standard approaches. One thing they all share is trying to deal with the state highways and sort of cut sheets and different types of archetypes in terms of how to deal with those state highway situations, if you want to run a bike path, those things could be of common interest, but I think we want to bring them all together. And
So just for clarification, when we talk about design guidelines, we really are, as Michael was mentioning, the public realm. So it's really, when you drive down those, those various state roads, especially through the downtown hamlets, is there some just basic best practices that we want to try to employ so that it has a little bit more of the visual aesthetics, when you're driving through the town. And so as opposed to architectural guidelines in terms of like the built environment, it really would be more of your landscaping and the interactions with the public realm.
so that's for the last item. No, I'm thinking I was right. Okay, so in my mind, I think it was the first item where you're talking about the different, sort of model examples. And I'm thinking, everybody has the idea of sort of having at least some length of a either sort of multi-use or trail or sidewalk, or, what are the options to connect to, say, their first local roads out of the thing or whatever. And some professional input and sort of guidelines around that could be of use to everybody. But again, that's kind of jumping the gun, but that's what occurs to me.
Before we get to that stage though, Valerie, would you be able to share those slides with us?
Yes, and I believe it's part of the packet for tonight, for tonight's agenda, but I can make sure that you have that and we'll send those to you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Valerie, Katie, and Michael.
So what can the steering committee do to support the town board in helping have a decision by October 10th?
I intend after this meeting to reach out to those, at least the two Hamlet groups,
Hamlet organizations, and give them a chance to huddle.
Yeah, and so why don't I just like loop you guys in communications wise and we'll sort of see where that goes, and maybe there's a Zoom meeting or something where we're bringing them together. And then whatever comes out of that will, you guys will be able to channel that back into the process.
Okay, great. Yeah, just keep us in the loop and let us know what we can do to help move it forward. So we keep everything on schedule.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you, Katie.
Thanks,
Okay,
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks Valerie, thanks Michael. Okay, next we're gonna jump to budget. So let me get, Nisha, you wanna get set up and start those discussions? And I think what I like to do is have Nisha present an overview. She put together a great presentation on where we are by department in terms of the change between the adopted 2023 and adopted 2024, and that could lead into Cindy's presentation on the library budget.
Let me share the screen.
Yep.
Mostly said I have to.
Yeah, maybe. I'm sorry. Did I say, yeah, I meant adopted 23 and the requested 2024. I didn't need to say adopted 24. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, I'll make it short because anyways, we have to change the numbers based on the tax cap and the amount of revenue that we are expecting to receive. I've received all the requests from different departments, and I'm trying to assess as to how much can we go with the tax and with the revenue. So these are the same Excels as we have dealt with the prior.
So what's the tax cap for this year? Do we know?
2.something, 2.6. Usually that's the tax cap. If you see the subtotal, last year it was 8.2 that we could do tax levy. This year we can do 8.4 based on tax base growth rate and allowable levy growth factors. So if you see this Excel, that's what we can raise by taxes, 8.4, and last year was 8.2.
And so currently, yeah, maybe, yeah, the highlight.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I will go one by one over it. So initially, let's go with the tax rate. Appropriation for this year, as of requested, for general fund is 11.2 and highway is 4.5. And based on the current assessed value, everything has been calculated and all these formulas were put in to get the percentage of increase or decrease based on the previous year. So last year it was 10.1 for general fund, and this year it increased from 1.095, and then that's a 10% increase in appropriations. And when you talk about revenue, that has increased just 4.7%. So net total, it's 20.26%, which is hike for general fund. Let's go with the highway, which says 3.8. The increase is 18.26 in the expenses and 20% increase in the revenue. But it's a smaller amount. That's why the total net difference is still 18%.
And just for everybody who's watching, this is the requested budget, right?
Correct.
So it's just, these are all the things that
The numbers
the
that-
departments have put in. It's not that they're.
Yes.
This is the.
It's the wish list.
Wish list, yes. So that's why it's going up to 19.26%. It has to be 2 point something. So there has to be a 16% reduction. That's why I'm not putting so much time and efforts in this, because this has to be reduced overall. But this is what it requested. If we go follow and request, take into consideration everyone's request, this is what we are leading with, and this is not what we are going with. We have to reduce, cut down, so this is just the projections. Let's go with the tax calculations. Same 2023 numbers, growth factor is considered into it, and the subtotal is coming for this year. And 8.2 million was last year tax levy, and this year we can just go up to 8.4 based on the numbers from New York State Controller's Office. And these are the numbers that we have proposed 2024 tax levy, and we are over the cap for town, which is general fund and highway together. We are Oakridge sewer it's within the budget, it's very good, and the other two are still little higher. So in net total, we have to reduce it by 1.2 million currently. So these are just the wish list basis, as you said. This is the complete requested budget for 2024. I'm not going into it. And let's go to the general fund. That was the revenue portion of it. There's no need for going into detail. I'll give my highlights at the end.
Mhm.
Okay. This is general fund revenue. This is expenses, appropriation. This is where it shows that they're asking for 10 million at the end of it. So if I go this, then one light will be gone. So we're planning to.
We appreciate.
Yeah,
it.
we don't need to go line by line at this point.
Same,
That's gonna be available on.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean,
This is.
Yes.
by way of highlights, you know, if there are certain
This is gonna be-
places that are very
Give it to you,
notable
yeah.
in terms of
yes,
where we're seeing big increases.
yes, I have that.
Yeah, okay.
So then highway fund, same, it's huge Excel, so I'm not going for this, and the total that they're requesting is 4.5 million. Highway revenue is 300,000, there's no drastic difference in the revenue sheet, and then if, this is my sheet, what I want to go through. So currently, we are 1.25 million over the cap with the requested budget, 19.25% that we need to decrease it to 2.6%.
So that would be the tax increase, the
Yes,
19.25.
yes, it's
We're
based on this.
not reducing, we're addressing the scope of the increase over last year.
Yes, so yes, we have to cut down.
Based on requested findings, yeah.
So I wouldn't say that the departments came up with the very high numbers this year. But the major concern was because we went into union contracts, there's a salary increase, a drastic salary increase of 12% from 2021, 2 and 3. So last salary increase was 2020. Based on that, there's a 12% increase in the salary for the general fund, if you see here. Based on union contracts.
And if I can, if you don't mind, we interrupt Anisha. So we have 4 union contracts, 3 of which have been finalized.
This year, yes.
And we have a 4th one that's being close to finalized, and you have the numbers for that 4th one incorporated in here, right?
Yes, yes.
So these are contracts that had expired in 2020,
Mhm.
and it took some time to negotiate. And this year we are in the process of having all 4 completed,
And there's a
And-
retrospective aspect.
Yes.
not in the budget though.
This retro has already been paid for the 3 union contracts this year.
Yeah.
One is still due for highway. The normal employees, not Teamster, which is going to Teamster, that is due.
Right.
So that will be paid this year. And it's blown off the budget.
Yeah, so because we have those 4 agreements that are now either finalized or close to finalizing, we have a huge increase in.
So the
salary
major
component.
portion of all these increases is not the department coming up and saying we need so much money. It's just the salary increase from 2020 to 2024, all of a sudden going up to 12%.
So close to 2/3 of what we're talking about is this structural increases associated with the resolution of the union
Yes,
contracts.
and we cannot reduce that. So we have to reduce either our equipment request or contractual requests going forward to stay in that tax cap. limit.
Yeah, I don't think it's 2/3, it's probably closer to a third or something, because this is 12% of half. Of, you know, roughly half of the sort of tax budget, so,
Mhm.
but it's, I mean, it's still obviously the biggest chunk.
Yeah. So there's revenue increase as well, so we need to take that into consideration as well for that. So if we go down every quarter, every payment, like equipment, they went down for the general fund contract, they went 13% hike. That's where we need to cut down for the next time, and benefits, it's based on the social security, health insurance. I'll go over it in a few minutes. Debt service is basically all the bond banks payments, but this hasn't gone down because highway portion has gone higher, so the net effect is not much.
So that's for the general fund, we had a decrease in the debt service of 15%.
Yes. So, but if you see highway, there's an increase for 7.9%.
Mhm.
So the net effect doesn't say that the money was saved.
Mhm.
So let's go to the highway one, same with that 9.89% increase in the salaries. Property insurance and contingency was down by 16%. Contract was
Contractual.
contractual is 40% higher needed for this year. Benefits, same based on the health insurance and salary changes. If the salary changes, the social security benefit number does change.
Mhm.
And then going for the debt service, that increased 7.9. So the net effect, as I said earlier, for the debt service is neutral. So overall, the general fund was asking for 10.75% net increase, and highway is asking for 18.26% net increase. If I go to Park and Recs, obviously, Nicole will present her budget. Salary and wages have gone from 25% hike. Equipment, she's reduced it to 10%. And contractual has gone 23% higher, and same benefits has gone 20% higher, overall 23% increase from the previous year. If I go for maintenance budget, there's a 16% hike based on the salary. He's going to present it, and there's one summer help that he needs. And increase due to union contract, and there's no change for equipment. Contractual is decreased a little bit, and benefits have increased same 15%. So overall, the budget has increased from 7.38%. If I go for police department,
Can I just make a comment? I think it's gonna be important as we go through this, like with the salary increases here. Imagine in certain cases, it's because we had been operating with short one person for a time, and we put that person back finally, and we're catching up. So people shouldn't read that and see that and think that there's actually 25% salary increase.
The other thing you have to consider is also the minimum wage is going up for this state.
Yeah.
So all the temporary camp counselors, they have to be paid minimum wage, which is more than it was before.
yes, that has been taken into consideration. That's why Nicole will present 25%, 25.92% hike based on the seasonal employee, the rate hike and promotion and new hire, whatever request she has going forward.
Is this the last year the phase-in increase in New York State of the minimum wage, or is that
No,
it's the 1 more year?
it's multiple years, I think
Yes,
two or three at least. I think.
yes.
Yeah, it's a new phase.
Yeah.
They stopped for a while, but now it's gonna go on for another 4 or 5 years.
Okay, yeah.
So the maintenance net is 7.38 increase, police 5.88% increase in their salary, there's no change in equipment. Contractual same 8.5%, but that was very minimal, $4,000. And benefits 6.2. So police overall, they just kept their budget very same, unless there's just the union contract, which was negotiated this year. Based on that, there's an increase for salary. Other than that, they kept most of it the same. The second portion that I would like to discuss is hospital and medical benefits. This is the.
Can you, sorry, Nish, but can you zoom in a little bit? Just.
Yes,
I don't know how.
because the top portion was.
Yeah.
Is it fine now?
Folks in the back, can you see?
You
More or
want to
less.
increase a little bit more?
Yes, please.
Is it that?
How's that? Okay. For those of you who have lots of experience reading and like things.
Okay, maybe I just want to fit in one screen somehow.
No, it's fine. Don't start to.
So this is the night shift that we have. Overall 2 years, it's been increasing to 12 to 15%. Due to COVID or non-COVID, they have.
That's the health insurance.
Yes, for individual and family. For individual, it increased like 12% from previous year. For family, it increased almost 15%.
And
So based on, sorry.
yeah, and we don't know the annual change until like December usually. They don't
Yes.
know how it goes.
November.
Yes,
Right.
by the end of November, December, we might not know that they would increase it to 15% or 12%. So that's the reason I budgeted for 15%, taking into consideration that everything. They've reduced it in July, but let's see how numbers go from there. So I've budgeted 15%. That's the major expense after salaries in the overall budget for the town of Lewisboro. So if you see the retirees and everyone, there's 2.1 for the previous 15% raise. And if you go for 1 second. So if you budget at 15%, there's an expense of 2.1. And if you go at 10%, then it's 2.0.
12%, right?
Yes. If you go at 12% hike.
And the difference
From
is the
323.
difference is the 54,000.
Yes, so even if I go for 12% hike, which will be clear by November, I would save just 54,000 in the overall budget.
Mhm.
So I'm going with 15% because even insurance, town insurance has gone significantly higher and is going higher every year in higher proportion. They are expecting 10%, but I've budgeted just 8%. That's the reason I'm budgeting a little higher on this side. So that even if I don't want to blow off the budget in the next year. So the third portion that I want to discuss is Oh, non-union salary hike. This is basically all the new non-union members which are getting a percentage increase. So I've calculated 4% and 3.5%. So if you consider that increase, there's a difference of 5,000 in net for the all the employees. So I'm projecting 4% right now based on the comparison with non-unions. So I want to be fair with all of them because I realized that most of the people had a complaint saying that one of the year non-union employees didn't get any hike because of COVID. So that taking that into consideration, I have plugged in the numbers, for example, salary for $40 salary for each employee, union and non-union employee. And I have made a cumulative percentage forward saying where do they lie in 2024? They should lie together, right? So everyone is lying at the same level, 40, even Teamster might be higher, and everyone is going at a $44 rate. So if a person started in 2020 with $40, all of them are lying at $44 and some cents in 2024 based on 4% hike. So that's why I'm proposing 4% hike for non-union employees. And it's a difference of $5,000 even if you go for 3.5. So I don't think we should, they should struggle, even though they don't get overtime and double time and all those additional expenses that I see on.
So you're trying to close the hourly cost gap between union
Yes,
and non-union.
yes. So that complaint would be waived off after this. And
You mean after this year?
yes,
So everybody would be on the same
same
level and
yes.
it would be the last time we'd have to take a hit of that significance in the salary, 4%. I mean,
Yes, so if you see cumulative, for example, everyone got a raise of 2%, 2.5% in this Excel. And their rate was significantly increased and they got a retro payment as well. So taking that into consideration, this, and if they're lying at the same level for 2024, I think it's fair. Okay. The last request that I have is the departmental request for all these capital requests that I have for the general fund, which is by.
Could you expand that, please?
Sure.
For those of us with experienced eyes.
Yeah, that's much better.
Maybe 120%.
Yes. Is it fair?
Yeah.
So
Thank
this
you.
is just the template where everyone is asking, say, oh, there's a sidewalks, general fund building is asking for a vehicle, highway is asking for three.
Right, the 3 trucks.
Yes,
Right.
police is asking for two vehicles, parking rec is asking for capital improvements.
Police are asking for one vehicle and the other are the outfitting, right? Of a vehicle, you think?
Light sirens, yeah.
Yeah. So overall, if you consider it's 4.5 million of requests, so some we are planning to fund it from ARPA fund or via grant. And
Yeah, that's not, where it says ARPA funds, that's just a placeholder. That has not been decided, so.
Okay.
so people are.
It's just tentative, but
yeah.
these are the requests. We have to prioritize which one are the most important or the one which are essential. Taking into consideration, we are already blowing up the budget by 19% and 2023 budget has already gone over because of retro payment.
So our ARPA, isn't our ARPA balance somewhere between 5 and 6, I think?
Yes, like 535.
Okay, so these are the capital requests. So obviously we have to reduce the budget by a significant amount. So I'm not going.
I mean, the capital stuff, we
Yeah.
got to review and
That's
some
yeah.
of it may be
Mhm.
bonded or whatever.
Yeah,
Right.
so highway will present
Why
their
not?
request, police will be coming as well, I guess, and parking recs would have their request as well. So that's up to the town board to decide which one they want to pursue for the next year, and we'll take into consideration as to
Right,
the actual amount of debt or
right. Okay,
or source of funding. It could be ARPA, it could be any grants or.
so we're gonna, next week we'll have, we have Nicole here for Parks and Rec, we have somebody here for library, Joel for maintenance. We'll go through real quickly, highlights, maybe some things they want to point out, and then next week we'll have highway present theirs.
Correct.
And, but this will be placed into, so this spreadsheet of the requested budget, there may be some adjustments as we continue to dialogue over the course of the next week or so.
Will be.
Well, I'm just saying there may be, within the next week. Or,
There might be
yeah,
a
but
lot
there
of
will
changes.
definitely be some adjustments, yeah.
Even in the original budget, even in the capital request, because obviously if this capital request unless and until there is a
Yeah,
corresponding revenue to generate to have all these requests in place. We cannot have all these projects in place
Right.
for next year.
I had posed this question earlier in the year before you had gone through your analysis, so I guess I'll renew my question. How are we doing just compared to last year as far as the assumptions and budgetary projections we made? How are we doing thus far this year?
Most of the appropriations are under the budget, but mostly union contract led to a huge gap. Plus, if somebody retired, there are 3 employees with 20 or 10 years of employment who retired. The payout will
pretty significant payouts.
precisely
Yeah.
affects the budget. So obviously salary lines are the major ones which are impacted. Other than that, it's not highly significant, but yes, I can consolidate in the next meeting, saying that these are the appropriation which are little over the budget, and we always tackle it. We always see what exactly needs to be done if there's something overflowing with the appropriation budget. So just to summarize, there's a tax cap and we'll reduce this by 1.25 by next meeting, and we'll present.
She's optimistic. She said we will reduce it.
I was impressed. We'll make it work.
Yes, unless there's a revenue stream coming in from somewhere else, and if
Yeah.
grants are coming in like Tony does that.
But you also, you also have to,
Donations.
you also have to recognize if contracts bumped us up, you know, an amount which is, you know, you obviously, if you want to recover all that, you got to go into the rest of the budget and scrape things out, and there either are or aren't places that, you know, to pull those out from.
Right.
So
I
that's an
think
exercise to,
so
yeah.
that's why we use the word balance.
That
As
is
far as,
budget.
as far as the budget, we have to make our choices.
So Cindy will be up next, but this incorporates the requested library budget as
Yeah,
well.
correct.
Okay, so maybe we can switch over to Cindy's spreadsheet.
But we'll
You-
do, you've got it right here, right?
Yes, I will distribute this to, or Nisha will distribute this to the board. I'm sorry, what is this?
Cindy's presentation.
Oh,
Tony, do you mind?
oh, no.
I didn't bring a laptop, just the,
Yeah,
Spirit science.
I'll give you my screen.
Oh, wait, am I not?
yeah, you're
There we
not.
go. It's that one. Hold on. It's that one.
Give me 2, 1 per attorney.
And I also have one.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I'm very cool.
Yeah.
and Nisha, do you need a copy of the budget? Or you got it, you got it. Yeah, Tony, well, Tony, I have an actual I have a presentation that more than just the budget that Tony has.
Are you gonna want to show the spreadsheet as well?
It's
So
in
maybe-
the
Oh, it's
presentation.
in here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Everything is in there. But I thought you guys would appreciate
Um,
having a paper copy as well.
Yeah, Anisha, you're gonna have to stop sharing so you can. Are you sharing? again?
Okay.
Yeah, what you got? No, it's showing on Zoom.
Yes,
Is it showing on Zoom?
it is,
Yeah.
yes. Can you make it full?
Okay, so we.
I can't remember the other one.
Slideshow view, perfect. Perfect. Okay, you can go to the first page, Tony. I just have a little review of, is it okay? Can I be heard?
Just trying to get rid of that box there. but-
That's okay, don't worry about it.
All right, yeah.
I just,
Oh, it's not on Zoom.
oh,
Oh,
It's fine on Zoom.
okay. Yeah, it looks fine here, but,
okay.
okay, all right.
All right, I just wanted to start with just a review of how we're doing this past year. Just a little quote about
modern public libraries, about one of the few truly public places left in America. Most of our public spaces require money or social status to access malls, museums, coffee shops. You have to purchase something. They don't want loiterers. One place remains open to everybody. Public library requires nothing of its visitors. No purchases, no membership fees, no dress code. You can stay all day and you don't have to buy anything. Oops, I dropped my pen. One place, let's see. You don't need money or library card to access a multitude of on-site resources that includes books, ebooks, and magazines, job hunting assistance, computer stations, free Wi-Fi, and much more. And the library will never share or sell your personal information.
Hold on a second. Okay.
You can change it. Okay, how are we doing? Highlights of 2023. We continue our trend towards also the library of things. Our Wi-Fi hotspot lending program has been very, very popular with our community. We have now acquired 11 Wi-Fi hotspots. We hope to acquire some more. They're almost out almost all of the time. Museum passes, which allow a family to visit. We now have 16 different museums that we offer both in Manhattan and up here in the suburbs. We have fishing rods and tackle boxes and discovery backpacks for kids. Okay, change. Program attendance in person and virtual, all ages. In 2022, we had 3,158 attendees. As of September 23, we have increased 15.9% over all of 2022, 3,659 attendees at our programs. And you can switch. Here's just some photos of some adult programs. I chose to emphasize the programs we try to have community be the focus of many of our programs. The volunteer fair we've been running for more than 10 years is very popular in the spring, highlighting all the nonprofits that need volunteer help. We had emergency preparedness with the Citizens Preparedness Corps from the National Guard. We're going to have that again this fall. And we even had a Stop the Bleed program with the Lewisboro Volunteer Ambulance Corps. We try to partner with as many organizations as we can, and you can switch. And I don't want to leave out the community crafters. And once a quarter, they will make some wonderful little items that to be distributed to all the seniors in town. And they have also made things for first responders. So we try to do as many volunteer and community activities as we can. The teen programs, we have a very robust teen program. Here's just some examples of things we've had this past year: a paint night, a teen hike with partner Lewisboro Land Trust. You can change. And teen summer reading, of course, is very important to the library as well. We had a great program this summer. Okay, we can go on. And of course, the children's programs are very lively as well. We had a story hour with K-9 Officer Llewellyn and the police dog Zane this year. We have our Makerspace Wednesday crafts, summer reading kickoff party. And again, this is just a very, very small percentage of everything that we do. Okay, you can change. Here, how were we doing? Total circulation of library and print materials. In 2022, we circulated 92,000 items, was an 18.37 increase over the previous year. And as of August 2023, we're up 20% over last year so far. And just interesting to see that the current ratio of print versus digital borrowing is 60% print and 40% digital. Library visits increased from 2021 to 2022, increased by 20.6 increase. And as of September, we are up 26% over last year. Library cards, we had 6,330 library card holders in 2022, and that was an increase of 9.1% from last year, from the previous year.
And Cindy,
Yeah.
isn't this month National?
Yes,
Library
September
Card
is
Day?
National Library, yeah. And we actually had 25 people sign up for library cards at the library fair.
Excellent.
So that was great. Ways we serve our community. I'm not going to go through all of this. You did see this last year, but this is just a long list of the many ways that we serve our community, from homebound delivery service, book clubs, local history, study space. It's a very long list. And library partners in the community. We also partner with many, many organizations in the community and always looking to do more. We partnered with the ambulance corps for the first time this past year. Okay. Okay, so funding. Most of you know this, but let me just review that the library is an association library. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization chartered by the New York State Education Department as a public library. We annually negotiate and contract with the town to deliver library services. The town currently funds the library at $495,806, or 74.2% of the library's operating budget. This is only 3.52% of the town's total budget appropriations for 2022. That's both highway and general fund. In 2021, this resulted in the town funding the library at $35.74 per capita. This was the lowest per capita rate for library funding in Westchester County, ranking 38 out of 38 libraries. And the library must currently raise the remaining 25.8% of our operating budget in order to maintain our current level of service to our community. And if you go to the next page, it's the perennial chart of public support per capita in Westchester County. And again, we're down at the bottom where we have been for many years. And I've highlighted on bold on the right-hand column some of our neighbors, some of our libraries in the area. Katona, you can see, spends $101 per capita on public support. Everybody, we're down at the bottom. And if you look down at the bottom on the left is the total based average. You can see what the county average is as well. That was in 2021. They have not released the 2022 figures yet.
For those with experienced eyes, that's $82.90.
For the average, yeah.
Base average.
Yeah. Okay, how do we raise the remaining funds? Direct mail, social media, annual appeals for donations, the library fair, library trustee directed fundraising events and sales, library fees and fines, and we get a big, maybe $3,200 from New York State every year. Budget notes, our library trustee finance committee recommends that this year the library board adopt a balanced budget. The past several years, we presented a budget that was that had a net loss, and we were relying on our fundraising at the end of the quarter to make up the difference. And but what we've decided to do is commit to more fundraising and ask you for funding for a balanced budget, and we'll see what happens. If this doesn't work, we'll have to rely again on our operating reserve to make up the difference, as we have in past years. And you can move on. Okay, so this is the actual budget, and I just trying to make it big enough to see. So I just did income and expense on different screens. So the library is requesting at 12.5. Oh no, I'm sorry.
12.36.
Yes, I'm sorry. I don't know why I put the wrong thing. I'm sorry in the notes. It's 12.36 is what we're requesting, which is a $61,298 increase. Line by line, library generated income. We've increasing our gifts and contributions line by 13.33% from 90,000 to 102,000. Fines and lost book fees, we're increasing it by 500, 10%. Of course, you can never predict whether that will happen or not. We're fairly confident. General fundraising, we're raising, that is the trustee directed fundraising activities, specific events. We're raising 35% to 13,580. New York State local aid is pretty much staying the same. Interest income is modest. We have one CD that we're earning interest in the operating fund for. And the library fair, we're leaving at 39,000 because it's history has shown that that's a good amount to put in there without being too bold.
Cindy, can you just refresh my memory?
Yes.
The increase 2022 to 2023 was around, I think it was 7% or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was 8.5. I think it was 8.5.
We requested 10.
Oh, we requested 10, but we received 8.5, I'm pretty sure. Any questions about the income line before we move on? No, we're good.
No.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I guess I have a question. I'm just looking at
Yes.
the categories as far as why do you differentiate between gifts and contributions, general fundraising, and library fair?
Well, the library fair is such a specific event, and obviously, if something should happen with the weather or not, we like to delineate between the different ways that we raise money. So we got the library fair is a big event that if that failed, that would make a big difference, and we like to track how well we do with that. The general fundraising is specific events that the trustees do through the year, and the gifts and contributions would be the money that comes in from donors to the annual direct mail. We do 2 direct mail appeals in May and at the holidays. Just helps us keep track. We could put it all together, but this helps us track how those individual ways we raise money are doing.
So the concerts come under general fundraising.
Yes, that's it. Yes. Okay, we can move on to expenses. That's just the notes from the income. Okay. So we have a lot here. We don't normally have so many changes in so many categories. Well, you know, last year we had just a few. I'm sorry. So New York, as we said, as Anisha said, New York State is raising the minimum wage from $15 to $16 an hour next year. Just as a point of interest, the following year will go to $17. The year after that will go to $17.50, and after that it will be tied to the CPI, to the Consumer Price Index, going forward. So of course we have most of the staff are hourly workers, and we will have to also increase their salary by $1 an hour, which is about a 6% increase for most of those people. And we're also we like to match what the town is overall going for with their increases. And so we think that 4% is overall is fair. Let's see. And of course, the things that go along with it, the taxes and the benefits. Now, the health benefits, I had just put in a 10% placeholder. Of course, we're on night shift, the same as the town for our health insurance. And we will not know what that's going to be until November or December. I know Nisha's putting in 15%. I did not do that, but it might have been prudent for us to do that as well. We won't know until then. Books and media. Oh, wait, hang on a minute. Oh, payroll. We're switching payroll companies, and I anticipate a 10% decrease in that line. Payroll administration, it looks like it's going up, but it's actually a reflection of what we're actually paying. We signed up with Vanguard this past year to handle our retirement funds. Books and media, we're putting up by $1,500. This price increases, as well as the tremendous demand for digital content. Now, I know I said at the moment that our circulation is 60% print and 40% digital. I'm mostly meeting the print demand now, but the digital, I could spend several thousand more and still not meet the demand. People are putting holds in the digital catalog, and I just can't satisfy the demand for it.
And aren't publishers increasing the cost of the licensing or accessing
They
electronic
are,
copies as
yes,
well?
they are. The publishers really have a stranglehold on it, and they charge us much more than the retail market for the digital content as well. It can range from anything from $27 to $130 for a digital license, and we don't actually own the item. We just
And
print it.
then you only get so many uses out of that license, and then you have to buy another one.
Yes,
as well.
that's correct. Or time.
Right.
It's either metered by the number of times it's borrowed or by time, a year or 2 years. Periodicals we're cutting by $300. WLSIT, they cooperatively pays for our software, the big software that runs the catalog and the circulation system and everything. Digital also pays for digital content and also pays for our various devices. So it's come down for 2 reasons. One is that we had new Wi-Fi equipment from them, which we paid for over 2 years, and that is done. So that came off the fee. But we are also going to eliminate 1 staff computer that is underutilized and 1 public computer, because we're finding that not all the public computers are used at the same time any longer. So we can get rid of 1 of those. But we also have laptops inside the library that we can lend people, and that can take the place of that 4th public computer. Utilities were increasing by 15% to account for increasing costs. We're already over our utilities budget this year. Legal and accounting, that's a big one for us. It is time for us to have an audit. We try to have one every 5 years. Believe it or not, we're not required to have one every year, but it is good practice to have one at least every few years. So we just signed for an audit this year of fiscal year 2022, which is going to cost us between $13,000 and $15,000, which was not in the budget for this year. And we've agreed, if they've kept it down a little bit, if we agree to have a review with this accounting firm next year. So we'll be tied into $11,000 for that for next year. And we're adding in $4,000 as a possible any legal fees that we might need to have.
And Cindy, for our folks, our friends at home, an audit is to make sure that all the accounting practices are being followed. And you're doing best practices as far as your bookkeeping goes.
Yes, absolutely. And let's not forget, for those who do read the local news, Mamaroneck Library, for example, had their business manager embezzle funds of $1.5 million. That's hard to believe that nobody knew that, but it's important to have these audits from time to time to try to avoid that. Not that we'd suspect anything like that here, but you never know. Office supplies, we're just going up a little bit, but it is already higher. We used to have a COVID expense line and an equipment repair expense line, and we've merged that with the office supplies. So that's why that's higher. The other two lines are gone. Programs were increasing at a minimum by the amount we've spent on the museum passes. We did get very generous donations to pay for it this year, but if we want to continue to have them, then we will need about that amount of money going forward. And those are also very, very popular with families. We have museum passes now for Museum of Natural History, the Intrepid Museum, all kinds of things, art museums, the Frick Museum, the Guggenheim. People are really responding well and very grateful for them.
And you don't have to go to Manhattan, the Aldrich Contemporary Art Museum.
There you go. And Katona, Hammond Museum, we have family passes to all of them. Where are we? So solicitation and the annual appeal needs to be increased based on our 2023 spending. There's changes in how we handle the annual appeal to be more targeted. We are trying to utilize best practices for solicitation and direct mail. And the printing and the handling of that was more expensive. And we hope that will help us to raise more money.
How does that different from when we were talking about earlier, the general fundraising?
The general fundraising are specific events. Yes. Yeah. Yes. You got it. And then we net that out. So if we have to spend something on a concert, it's netted out. But these are just the direct mail appeals.
Those are the line at the top of the income. At the top. Yes.
Yeah, the gifts and contributions, that's the appeal, how we get that money.
In May and December.
Custodian and maintenance, we're dropping that down to 16K because we are shifting some funds to a newly restored building repair fund. We are restoring that in 2024 due to increased repair needs, and the building is no longer new since the renovation. The library is one of the busiest public buildings in town, besides the schools, of course, with 56,000 people coming through our doors in and out all year round. This takes a toll on the building. We have an AC condenser that needs to be replaced. So we are trying to be conservative and suggesting putting aside $15,000 for those types of repairs. Our walkway needed a $10,000 repair. So it's all safety and training and education. During COVID, we neglected this. We usually like to send one staff member to a professional national conference to keep up with changes in technology and professional activities. We stopped going, and a small amount for other continuing education, so that we raised that up to $3,000 there. So the expense line is going up all expenses are going up 8.2%. And the income, we were going up, I don't have the total. Yeah, well, 10% on,
10.85.
yeah, for the library and 12 for the town. Any questions about the expenses? I know I'm throwing a lot at you all at once, many lines and changes.
I don't have any questions at this point.
Do you know how much the condenser is gonna cost?
About 10, I have it on here. Yeah, about $5,000.
Okay.
And we do try to get construction grants. There are library construction grant programs through New York State. And we, as the proclamation said, I received 6 of them over the last 20 years. And we do try to take advantage of those as well. If we identify something in the building that qualifies for that type of a grant, we would have to apply.
Are you anticipating any other, not that, things pop up?
Yeah.
I understand.
Yes.
But is there any other big projects aside from the condenser that you're aware of at present?
Not at the moment, but what we really are also talking about is possibly hiring an engineering or architectural firm to give us an overview of where the building is now and what we should expect in the next 10 years so that we can plan better.
Just sort of put together a plan as to prolonging the life of whatever it is that
Yes.
is already there.
Exactly. Yes.
Just a point, for thank you, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Rich.
As a former trustee, so I'll just, and I appreciate everything that the trustees do, the former library board trustees, member myself, while I'm married. I'm just wondering and taking a look at it, is there any way to enhance growth and use of the library? I'm talking about specifically the hours.
Yes.
What concerns me, it's never open before 10, it's never open until 6. Even potentially adjusting, I think I brought this up in the past, even like one day where it opens later and it stays open later, just adjusting and shifting the total hours. Because somebody who's working full time can't go before work and can't go after work. And based upon how our town is and the communities and all the people, it just seems like it's an opportunity to open up the library if one night or one day during the week, hours were adjusted. Say there was a late night where it opened up at 1 to 9 for the sake of argument, where people could go and know that and plan that one day and utilize the library, just opening it to people, new residents, et cetera, could just be exposed to the library and the facility that we have.
That's a very good point. And we are planning on having a survey soon to see what people would prefer. So we are definitely planning for something along those lines.
And you're also going to ask about what kind of events.
Programs, yes, yes.
Exactly.
Any other questions?
I just want to add my points as well. I know that when we moved here in 2003, we were very warmly welcomed by the library staff. And I appreciate all the professional work and creativity that the staff provides.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you for the
Thank you,
opportunity.
Cindy, and congratulations again. Okay.
Yes. Absolutely.
Did you give the, can you take off?
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean,
Just a second, Cindy.
yeah.
So
We'll take it out now.
Yeah, you can. Okay, so I think we'll Parks and Rec, so Nisha, do you still have your laptop?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, maybe, do we need, and Nicole, do you want to just summarize and speak to some of your, or do we need to have the spreadsheet up?
I don't think the spreadsheet, I had it for everybody. so-
Okay, that works, okay, yeah.
I think I'm sure Alicia, did you give one for Chairman? I did.
It's very weighty.
There's, there's a lot of support documentation there. Okay.
Once more. Anybody want water? There's an extra water here.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, so. Okay, so these capital projects are what were on the table that Nisha presented, so when you all get the spreadsheet, you'll see that there.
And these are in order of
Priority?
priority,
Okay.
correct? I believe next year AEDs will be a requirement for day camps. Waiting to find out more information from the health department. But I was approached by 2 residents about having them in the park. So I think it is time for us to have AEDs available. They would be in cabinets that are
An AED for the folks at home.
Cardi- yeah, sorry.
Emergency device if
Yes.
someone has
For a cardiac-
a cardiac issue.
Automatic.
Correct.
External
It's like,
defibrillator.
A
Sorry.
defibrillator.
With outdoor cabinets, so year round. And the price quote that I received is requiring the resident individual that is going to obtain the AED to call 911 first to release that AED from the box. So that is the quote to cover camps and our parks as well as LES.
How many are they each unit? You know?
They are, I think they're about 7,000, no, 5,000, and maybe around 4 or 5 for the cabinets as well. So
So 7,000 per,
yeah, obviously like the one
Package.
for the total, correct. And then like LES where we won't need an outdoor cabinet, we would just have for indoor, right, is a lot less. I think it even comes with it. Most are included, so. Pool bathhouse, obviously, that is a major priority along with the well. I'm projecting $1 million plus at this point, between the well, the guardhouse, the reconstruction of the bathhouse.
So we had approved some expenditures, right, that year for certain things, right?
we did, yes.
Which were about, I think about 300 change or something we had approved, right, for certain things, are those?
From the ARPA funds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For certain things that like
From
mid-year.
Parks and Rec, it was,
Yeah.
there was some pool equipment. And I forgot about the.
Pool equipment, backstops, new shed,
That's right. Shed.
on-a-true bathrooms.
That's
So that's separate.
right.
that-
I know, but that-
Not all has been completed yet.
Okay.
Yes.
And then for the sticking with the bathhouse or the pool in general, we do have. Joel is actually working with Delaware Engineering to get a design for a new water system, because we're gonna have to add disinfection. Or improve the disinfection system that's there. And that we're gonna be applying for a WIA grant next year. For that,
separate department capacity issues, yeah.
correct.
So
But-
basically,
Yeah,
Delaware Engineering will let us know, Joel, Astral and I, our needs for the park and the facility, and then determine whether another additional well is necessary, or how do we increase that current gallons per minute to what is expected. It's, I think right now we get an output of about 30 on a good day when it's fully recharged, but should be putting out 50. But we know we're not even getting to 30. So Delaware will provide us with further information and then let us know. One of my questions to Joel was whether we actually had to have the well in the works or completed prior to even doing construction on the bathhouse. So hopefully we'll receive more answers on that. And
at least if the well portion is started, maybe that will get us to being able to start the bathhouse.
The bathhouse needs to be renovated. There's no two
Complete.
ways about it.
Right.
But if the well situation is taken care of, then at least. I want to choose my words carefully, the. Under attractive bathhouse would still work more efficiently than it works now because the water would be working better,
Well,
and then we could work on.
It's important to have the water system functioning properly. So we can have a town park that meets the needs of its community. And right now, the current water system is grandfathered as far as the
Yes.
environmental approval.
The DOH.
goes,
Department of
Right,
Health.
Department of Health. And we want to make sure that we meet everyone's needs in a healthy manner.
Correct.
So that suggests to me if it's grandfathered now, as soon as you undertake any new project, they're gonna.
They're gonna want to take a look at it.
Grandfather,
Yes,
that's correct, and we have to
exactly.
be up to modern day specifications and requirements.
Correct.
On to the pickleball.
Pickleball. So a reminder that we still have the donation, that the residents are looking for that to be spent this year. So I am still advocating for the pickleball courts up on the old tennis courts at Town Park.
Remind us how much the donation was.
$50,000. And you know, a year ago, it was projected that we're looking at roughly $300,000 reconstruction, give or take. So Tony, Joe, Gemelli and I from Kellard do have a phone call scheduled next week to go over bid specs and hopefully get this ball rolling.
And that would include accessibility.
We would include, correct. Joe and I had spoken about that,
Good.
so I will reiterate that as well.
It's important because those steps are not easy for everyone. And we want
Correct.
to make sure that all generations can use those courts.
Of course.
And the courts we're talking about are the courts in the town park. That
On the upper.
were formerly known as tennis courts that haven't been used for that in more than a couple of months.
Yes. Pool play structure deteriorating has been, that was installed in 2006. You can see that the chlorine is gradually eating away at the galvanized posts that are painted, so they're rusted. We are constantly touching them up each year. Two quotes that I got quickly from the same company that put that structure in, $130,000 to replace the existing current structure. They no longer have a net crawl that we have on the back of ours because the nets deteriorate so much from the chlorine. So that does only leave one access way up. I'm not really a huge fan of that. Doesn't give, you know, the children another opportunity, another area to climb up to the slide. The other option was an upgraded structure, which actually is not stainless steel. After the gentleman did tell me he would, they do not have one that fits our pool, because obviously I'm not looking to get engineers involved and, you know, have to redo all of the paperwork with the health department, just trying to fit in our area. But $215,000 for a structure that looks slightly different. Also, I'm not 100% sold on it. I just feel like there should be more for that age group to do. Something that I could research more and push off to 2025. I think my other three are much more important at this point until we really know what we're going to do with the bathhouse and guardhouse. And, you know, I had spoken at one point, bringing back a wading pool. And if the guardhouse does go into the bathhouse, that would be a great area for that wading pool and really refiguring out that area.
On the play structure, does that get, is there any way to monitor or evaluate the use that it gets each year? Is it kind of constant or is?
It's constant.
Yeah, it's pretty continuous. I'd say from 2 to 10, 12 years old, there's good consistent use. Camp uses it, the Little Explorers children. As long as the water isn't that ice cold for those children, they will be in there.
It gets a lot of use.
Yes.
Like it's 28. So
You're not sure here at stage yet.
Number 5, on a True Fields 1 and 2. So another major issue is drainage, and all of the softball players, adult and young, complain about the rocks in our clay. So I guess eons ago, originally rocks were laid down before clay was as the drainage and base for the fields. And now as you turn the fields and prep them, and they're constantly coming up. So it is just a ton of rocks. So looking to pull that out and redo that. Now that I will have come next spring, 2 new backstops over there on those 2 fields. It'd be the nice final touch. Last thing, my parks guys brought to my attention was the walls at the Town Park Baseball Stadium. The railroad ties that are wood, should be pressure treated wood, are rotting out. Going to be a concern. We've got handrails missing on the stairs coming down. So an option that was proposed to me was pouring concrete walls. Then we don't have to deal with rotting wood in the future again. But concrete is expensive, so open to suggestions, or possibly even taking out one of those stairs and just making a walkway coming down to come around the concession like the other walkway coming up. So another option. But also looking to see, I tried to ask LBA for a little bit of insight quickly. Also, they are the main users of this field. So possibly some fundraising or something on their side to assist with the project would be helpful.
on the fundraising act, this is something I may have brought up a long time ago. Is there any prohibition against this, like naming opportunities with any of the fields that we have? Somebody wanted to, as a municipality.
I don't know. For your opinion, council, can we get, someone like MetLife to put their name on?
Pan Am, something like that.
Wasn't
we used to have
Pepsi on it?
Pepsi
Yeah.
in
Right,
Fox Valley.
that's why, yeah.
Point. Yeah.
But LBA is private.
Right, are we,
Yeah,
but
it's a town park.
I don't think the town can,
You're getting money.
LBA would have to.
If you're naming the field, you get the money.
From the sponsor. Yeah.
There's no municipal prohibition if somebody wanted.
You can't solicit, but if people want to donate.
Oh, if you're selling the
can-
rights.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're selling the rights and naming rights, that would be something you can do.
As a thank you. Spend all the time.
So just to be clear, we can't solicit.
For any
Yeah,
CEOs happen
selling
to
rights.
listen.
If you're selling naming rights, a
Right.
contractual agreement
Right.
for naming whatever
For
facility.
X number of
for-
years.
Yeah, for some defined term.
So
That's different.
All right.
Okay, so those are my capital projects. Budget. So first page, I am looking at a revenue of 1.5. Increasing. That's with increase of camp fees and other items that I will get into. Donations, sponsorships for fireworks, we brought in this year 22,850, projecting 18,000 for next year. It's always Undetermined, right?
Yeah.
Conservative estimate, got it.
Okay.
That way we can be happily surprised when we.
Yes.
And I think we're on track this year to hit your revenue number.
We are, yes.
Okay.
I think the only major on page 34 of 114, looking at clerical line. I am requesting 28,000 in that budget line. It is a large increase. Looking to hire a rec assistant part-time from September through April, full-time.
84.
Page 34.
Yeah, you got it. Okay.
Full-time May through August, so seasonal, and then part-time the remainder of the year.
Mhm.
And that is at the part-time contracted rate. Years ago, we had the extra body, the assistance with programming. Our programming is increasing. So the assistance at, full-time in the height of the year, the seasonal, and then dropping down to 17.5 hours for the remainder of the year to assist with any other programs.
That way you'll be prepared for any surprises.
Yes, there's some chatter of potential retirements in my department, so that could be sometime in the future.
So that chattering is not allowed.
Nicole, with Parks and Rec programming, do you know the breakdown of people that sign up for things online as opposed to coming in?
Okay. Yeah, I would say it's definitely more online than in person. But I feel like either way, the majority of our advertisement goes to the schools. So the backpack mail is really what initiates the registration. Yes, they see the brochure, but they're getting that a month before a lot of those programs start, 2 months. Once we send that out, whether they mail it in or go online, more of the registration is online. So we do collect fees on that. Next page, parks maintenance workers. So I am looking to promote groundskeeper, my highest groundskeeper, to a caretaker. My second current groundskeeper would bump up to second, and I'm looking to hire an additional employee there. With the new playground at Fox Valley as well as Town Park, we've got a lot of maintenance and upkeep. If we get the pickleball courts and all of the fields, we have the preserves, it is continuous, and I am
But there shouldn't be
lacking.
too much maintenance, right? I mean, in terms of like the new playground, it's basically like the mulch that gets spread out.
Correct, mulch, but now we've got fences that we are weed whacking around that are taking longer than just sitting on the mower and quickly mowing, or we've got a lot of rentals at Town Park now with the new playground. So that's also another proposal, is additional overtime for them to rotate on weekends, because our facilities are being rented out Saturdays and Sundays, trying to provide clean facilities, making sure that the previous user brought their trash out, the bathrooms aren't trashed, that kind of thing. So
with the additional rentals, that means
additional revenue, right? I on one of the lines, I think in one of my backups, we did have a significant amount in parks alone,
That's good.
just
Yeah.
from rentals.
Right, so the 350 number for pickleball, we're proposing how many total pickleball courts?
We were looking at 8 courts, resurfacing the entire area. So that would be, that technically, if we did all pickleball courts, that would be 16 courts.
Right, so, and the cost could be offset, revenue,
Permit.
probably, what? a third of it,
I
maybe?
think we've got 100+ in the pickleball group alone that get together and play at Town Park or at LES when the weather gets cold. So yes, and not all of them are residents. So we do have the
And they're all
increase in
paying a
non-res.
fee.
That'll be like seasonal pass or for, how does that?
So this is also something that I was talking to my staff about quickly was how, how do we want to do this moving forward? If we definitely get the pickleball courts, are we going to offer a all-in-one type of racket sport permit? Are we, you just want one for one specific sport, then yes, but we'll do it the same as with all the other ones. We'll have an individual, a family, a senior, a non-resident. It's the best way to, I think, really accommodate everybody. We haven't decided exactly how our system is going to work, because that is another discussion that we've had with PrAC. We give out keys right now and we change the lock every year, but it's hard to actually know how many of these patrons are purchasing the permit and that we're getting the revenue. So
It's hard to police.
right.
Well,
So
the
there's
other
so
thing
many.
to consider as a way of revenue stream is the competitions. I know that I have friends in other municipalities who are diehard pickleball fans, and they're trying to get us to start playing it as if we have the time. But they're very passionate about it, and if we could maybe have a competition with other towns, or have our pickleball people organize the competition, that could be a source of revenue as well.
Definitely.
Right, so.
People play that what, so it's in November, correct?
I think it's like,
Nice out.
right, even in the middle of the winter, if it's warm enough and there's no snow on the courts, those pickleball players were out there
It's
playing.
like diehard golfers. If
Yes.
there's sun and there's no wind, they're out.
Yes.
So
Another major line was field and play area maintenance, another increase of 10,000. So originally, I had put it as a capital project, but when Tony and I met, I added the 10,000 into the budget. The town park basketball courts, also where pickleball players play right now. I originally wanted to resurface the entire area last year, but after really looking at it, a lot of the
what line are we on? I'm sorry.
I'm
to
on
interrupt.
field and play area maintenance, page 35 of 114. Almost halfway down.
It's
2, 4, 6, 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
38,000. So 10,000 towards the basketball courts. A lot of the area that needs to be touched up, repainted is out of bounds, I'd say. So an entire resurface is not necessary, but it does definitely need to be pressure washed as well. I received a quote for the Fox Valley dugouts. The Fox Valley playground also needs a fence to separate the playground from soccer, so that soccer balls and soccer players are not running into the playground.
Or the soccer balls running into the children.
The children are, yes. So that everything else is pretty straightforward. Day camp, page 37 of 114. So this is a pretty drastic increase.
Yeah.
We are currently negative $43,000 in day camp counselors this year. So I am looking to increase, basically 100,000 from what we're negative. Starting pay is going to be around $14 an hour for counselors. We are looking to hire more adults for next year. I am cutting the CIT program, unfortunately. So we will be only employing 16 and up. And in hopes that we have more adult staff on hand, specialists for activities, running those sports, nature, music, art, definitely needed rather than some of the 18, 19, 20-year-olds, really to structure those
And
programs.
for those CITs, you're not going to be hiring, you'll be starting a program
For them.
specially directed for them.
Correct. So towards the bottom of these lines,
I wrote in Teen Treks 2, so Nisha had given me a new budget number. So that would be specifically for 9th and 10th graders. We'll offer one bus, 3 days. It'll be just like the Teen Trek program. They'll go on bigger trips probably. Something that will keep them entertained and if it doesn't run, it doesn't run. We save the 42,000 that I'm budgeting and then we don't have it in the revenue, but you know, it's something that we're looking to try to offset not offering them positions.
So day camp for the 2023 summer season to operate at capacity or close to it?
More. We were more than last year. Definitely. We saw an increase. We obviously have our ratios and numbers that we had to adhere to for staff, and that's where we went over budget in staff because we had to employ more to meet our ratios.
Do we have the physical facilities that we could, if we hired more, we can increase capacity? Or we're kind of based upon physical plan where
We-
kind of at capacity?
we-
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, but I think I'm trying for 2024, I am looking to lessen that capacity. I would like smaller groups, more supervision. So
You're focusing on quality.
yes, more quality than, yes. And if we can, and we have the staff, then yes, we can open it up, but it's going to be more about hiring the appropriate staff
Right.
for this program. And I did actually change the age. So the second to last line of Teen Treks for 172,000, where it is increasing 52,000. I'm adding a fourth bus. We only had 3 buses this year. I am projecting that we would have 2 3-day, 2 5-day buses. And that would be 6th through 8th. Main event camp was entering grades 2nd through 6th. I am taking 6th grade out and I am putting them into the teen program. And that's where I'm kind of changing those grades around. So in hopes that that will also help. You'll just see revenue and budget numbers there. Pool. Another significant increase. Salaries, the first line. Last year, it was originally proposed to me at 51,530. We dropped it down. We are negative, just over 8,000. So what I'm requesting is in line for what we should see in regards to salary increases. Same with lifeguards. Another significant increase, but salary increases. We are starting ours. Sorry, we're on 38 of 114. So it's just the next budget preparation page.
There you go.
So lifeguards hourly rate, we've been 50 cents below minimum wage each year. We haven't been at minimum wage. But also we are obviously trying to increase some of those employees, but also cut back on some. I don't need as many on staff each day. Few lines down, gate attendants and maintenance, another increase, but looking to have an adult college grad at the gate, handling money, meeting, greeting the patrons. We just need a lot more responsible staff on hand. Pool equipment, we've had some emergency repairs. I believe we are negative in that. So requesting 28,000. Miscellaneous repairs, we this year budgeted 4,000, again, looking for 15,000 increase due to emergency repairs. We had electrical issues where LV Electric had to come out to help with our pumps to keep the pools running. So there was well over 10,000 just to them to keep our pools open. So
Last thing was that I did request Tanisha to give me another line, which is at the bottom for concession services. We had gone negative in another line, I want to say in other supplies, where we were, we had to pay for the propane for the concession. So we are paying for it, but I would like it separate so that it's not coming out of a budget line that we are using for anything else.
Right.
Propane had to be serviced on the holiday weekend because it wasn't running, and then every time they needed to be filled. So. Quite a few pages for pool backup. So you can go through that stack. Page 40 of 114. Tennis. Pretty much the same, slight increase. And I am only factoring in because of pickleball. Our instructor has been teaching a lot more programs. He's also offering a free platform tennis program and hopes to get the community interested in that. Page 41. Youth programs.
Wait just a second.
Yep.
Okay, you come up? Okay,
Good.
Yep.
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome. Nothing major. LES gym rental and maintenance increased another 10,000. I think we have just enough in our budget right now to cover rent for the rest of the year. So we will be negative in that. A lot of maintenance.
Just to clarify, that's not an increase in the rent, that's maintenance. The increase that you're projecting.
Correct, but I'm stating that what we have left in our budget is just enough to cover rent for the remainder of the
Got
year.
it.
So
Okay.
anything additional, if there's additional mowing or landscaping that's done before the year's out, along if any snowstorms, snow removal, all of that, I know what they're saying, it's going to be bad, so just preparing you. So an increase there, and then ski trips, we pay half at the beginning of the year, the other half at the remainder of the year. We have increased our fees for our ski program per participant. So hoping that will offset, but we do still see an increase. The only thing I want to note on the next is that we do have to go out to bid for fireworks this coming year. So I project maybe 1,000 or 2 more than what we had. I think we were charged 14,100 for fireworks, so we'll find that out.
So 14,000, that's
100 per year was a 2-year contract
Right.
for just the display of fireworks. So we have
Okay.
to go out to bid for that.
Got it. Okay. So this would also be a 2-year. So the 32,000, that's the cost.
No, that is everything for fireworks.
Oh,
So
that's right. You did
everything
say
that we have to
said
pay
that when
for.
we met.
Correct.
Yep. Okay.
Seniors. So Pam, unfortunately, the nutrition program is out of our control. I think Nisha said we had paid just about 27,000. So it could go up more again next year. We don't know. Next page. Adult. I am requesting an additional 3,000 in community enrichment. So we had Pride, Juneteenth, New Neighbor, food truck, and we also will have the Fall Fest and Winter Celebration all coming out of that line.
I thought Pride was paid for by nonprofit. I thought that was a different organization and.
We have 1,000.
1,000, a resolution of 1,000 for each of them.
Really? Okay.
But that is only a contractual line. So anybody that's looking, if they're working, we can't pay them out of that. So that's also something else. If we're, if my staff is asked to work the event and to be paid from that $1,000 that they were given from the town, then we have to add that into, say, adult instructors, because that's a
Mhm,
payroll
mhm.
line. So,
And if another event gets added to a town sponsored event, it goes on that line as well. And then
correct.
We were thinking about with the fall festival. Doing a heritage of everyone in the community. You know, where we would have maybe a potluck or, you know, a celebration of all of the different families.
The other thing that I requested to Nisha, in my blurb on the bottom, and to Tony, was community services, which would be a payroll line. So there were 2 events, one specifically where the drug prevention utilized LES. They had an event on a Sunday, but we provided staff and to open the building, and there is cleanup and all of that is required. So having this line that's in the general fund for any department, say, you know, the steering plan needs to hold another workshop and they're looking for somebody to open a building to run that. Then we would say I was asked to work, or Michael was asked to work, then they would be paid out of that specific line rather than my own budget or planning's budget. So. But I believe this was placed under my budget line, so I would like it moved out.
Yeah, I would have thought that if it's a planning or, you know, the comp plan thing, that it would be in the comp plan and stuff.
Unfortunately, when I questioned that, I was told it was coming out of my budget to pay for my employee to be there. So.
Okay, I'd like to learn more about that, chance, because, you know.
that doesn't make sense to me either.
Yeah, capture that all in one place.
They want your employee there, then they should pay for it.
Yeah, well,
Just
it's
my thought.
be accounted for in the right place.
Yeah, what was I think there wasn't a line that we could have put this under for
Yes, I
planning.
don't recall. I didn't make a note of it.
It would have
All
been-
right, so
We
you're
can-
creating. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so that's.
Nisha probably made a note of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Transportation. The increase in day camp bus drivers, because we're looking to add the teen groups, correct? So that would be 2 more buses. Projecting starting at bus drivers at $27.50 an hour would bring us to that increase. We are behind on payments for gas and leases for day camp. So we just paid 2022, and those were the amounts that we just paid. So we will be significantly in the red on that when we finally pay this year's, but I'm projecting slightly over what was charged to us for last year.
Mhm.
Nicole, can I ask you a question? The proposal you made earlier about, you know, discontinuing the CIT program and in its stead putting in another program for that age group. In the numbers, you know, we're looking here, adding buses. Are we hoping that the numbers are going to? The revenue that we get from those additional campers is somehow going to outweigh the cost of providing the additional buses and trips? How's that gonna?
Yes, I mean, that's the ultimate goal. And if we're not hitting a number, then we're not running the program.
Okay.
No, our minimum could be 25, 30. Our max is 48 on a bus of
Right.
campers. So if we're not in the positive, then we're not going to run the
Right,
program.
we're not filling the bus, we're not doing it, okay.
And that's that.
Thank you very much, Nicole.
You're welcome.
And again, all these numbers have been plugged into Nisha's spreadsheet, so
Yep.
you guys
See
have,
it.
you can, yeah.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Okay, so. let's quickly, I think the maintenance budget, Joel, maybe, yeah, you can step up, but there wasn't much,
Not nearly as interesting.
it's not as interesting, so I wouldn't, go into
No,
line by line, just.
everything's pretty much flat except for the personal services because of the contractual reasons.
Correct, the union agreements, yeah.
Which
yeah,
is, yeah. It's-
And everything else is pretty much.
It is the same, yeah,
same. Yeah,
Everything's the
So
same.
that's the only
Salary.
change as
Okay.
far as maintenance is concerned.
right, which we'll revisit as time goes on, I guess.
Right.
Capital items that are outside of that. ARPA's doing some generator and some roofs, right? Everything else is no big projects besides the town park and water. Okay. Everything else falls within regular maintenance, pretty much.
Right.
Thank you as always for being the king of 50 budgetary presentation.
And just so, yeah, getting back on the roof, so we kicked off again, well, it was a FEMA claim that was kind of dormant and we've
Trying to
put it back on the
resurrect it.
radar. So there's still FEMA money available for replacement or repair of roofs from Sandy.
Sandy, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
so we're,
What about the Cyrus Russell stuff that?
and the Cyrus Russell, he's taken care of, right?
That
So we got,
started this week. Oh,
Yeah.
What's the Cyrus Russell stuff?
roof
list.
replacement, right? That's
Roof and deck,
and back.
and then we'll get into the rest.
And then we're gonna do the
Paint,
outside.
windows.
Yeah.
The what windows?
Paint and windows.
Okay, too.
The painting looks like it's already been done on the inside.
Inside,
Oh,
yeah.
inside's been done.
It's been done.
Oh, but
the
outside,
Yeah.
the trim. The outside is,
Yeah.
just getting
Yeah.
all changed to the. And painted all the rotten wood, the broken windows, all that stuff.
The back door.
Great, yeah, this is here.
Yes, keep us posted on that, because that's, that's what we like to get. Okay,
Joel, thank you
Thank
so
you, Joel.
much for all that you do. You and Sean, we're really grateful.
okay, great. So I think that's, it's all for the budget stuff. So let's go back to, the new business. So, the first resolution is, authorizing to go out to bid for the Oak Ridge Water Treatment Plant Expansion and Upgrade Project for PFAS. So
So moved. Second.
discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
The next one is approving CRP sanitation renewal of license for commercial refuse.
So moved.
Annual agreement.
Second.
Any issues? With
Everything's
CRP?
attached.
Okay.
The duck.
it's just commercial, they did commercial.
Yeah. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Approving the amended agreement with Private Time Lacrosse. It was amended. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at it, but it's part of the agenda packet. So I'd like to motion that we approve the amended agreement with Private Time Lacrosse. So I'm second.
What does that entail?
It entails adding
Program dates.
program dates.
Program dates. Okay.
Yeah, it's in, yeah.
No.
There's a summer invitational June and 4 dates in June.
Okay.
And then there's South Salem Spring Shootout. No, I'm sorry, that was May. Yeah.
With additional revenue, yes.
With additional revenue, yeah.
Only made the motion second.
And it also
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Includes what there?
I was just going to mention that the damage / cleanup deposit is there to protect our fields.
Excellent.
Okay, next one is a resolution authorizing the signing of the SAM grant disbursement agreement for the water disinfection system and ADA compliant bathrooms at Fox Valley Park. So this is a SAM grant that we applied. We're using those funds, but approximately it's $100,000 to upgrade the water disinfection system so that the water is potable at the Fox Valley bathroom, and do some ADA compliant work with access to the bathroom.
Finally, so moved.
So we're authorizing you to sign this?
To sign the grant disbursement agreement, yes, so we got DASNY sent us the agreement and they're ready to reimburse us. Or not, actually, they're ready to get the agreement in place, now start the work and then get reimbursed.
Okay, so,
Do you want to?
second, no, I mean, we get it.
I
Who
moved.
Okay.
Yes.
And Dan second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
So the next one is that this was actually should have been named a resolution to declaring the notice of intent to serve as a secret lead agency. And this is for the bond, the borrowing bond. There was within the packet, we left out the document which has the roll call vote. It was distributed, I think, for the meeting, so you all should have it. And again, this is a step that's required in order for us to be able to put this on the ballot in November. So I'd like to motion that we approve the declaration of the notice of intent to serve as the lead agency for the pedestrian improvements within the hamlets of Lewisboro.
Second.
Discussion.
Just want to be clear, because there was emails back and forth about this. This particular document, just for those of you watching on Zoom,
And person.
and in person, this particular document does not list or describe the particular projects for each one of the hamlets. This particular document only is a resolution to have the town board act as lead agency. The other documents are separate and apart from this, correct?
That's correct. And what we're voting on tonight is to declare our intent to be lead agency. And then, but the other documents
You're
are,
going to circulate.
yeah,
that
the other
resolution
documents,
With the other documents.
correct, and they
to
go
the DOT,
to DOT,
DEC.
correct. That's correct.
Say that again, sorry.
That resolution, if it's passed, will be circulated with the short form EAF. And the notice of intent to declare lead agency.
And that in it has the description of the projects that was the basis to the discussion.
And those
So in-
agencies will
Yeah,
make a determination as to whether they would prefer or would rather be lead agency
right.
themselves.
And that notice to the involved agencies was in the agenda packet. And the lead
Yeah.
agencies include the town board, New York State DOT, and New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. And then there's interested agencies, which are the Westchester County Planning Board and the Katona Lewisboro School District. So those are the ones that would get copies of this.
Right, but we're not voting on a negative declaration tonight, that's correct?
You're not making your determination tonight, that's correct.
Oh,
You have to have a 30-day window or a period of time where they respond.
Right.
Within that 30 days, and then you can consider making a determination at that point.
Right.
So, so the notice that we have for the coordinated environmental review.
The EAF document, you mean, or the
No,
actual
notice,
notice to the
we
involved
have the
agency?
lead agency agreement, we have the notice, and then we have the environmental assessment form.
Mhm.
So, the notice to involved agencies references under the proposed action, three specific projects, the Golden's Bridge, Cross River, and Vista.
Yes.
And the resolution also makes reference to, in more general terms, proposed construction of crosswalks, sidewalks, and bike lanes in and around certain intersections with Golden's Bridge, Cross River, and Vista Hamlets. So I'd like to have clarification as to exactly where we are in the process, because the notice for the coordinated environmental review, as well as the short environmental assessment form, both have reference to three specific projects. So I just like clarification if that's what we're asking the Lewisboro voters to approve by way of this permissive referendum. Because I believe we have a corresponding obligation of transparency. If that's what we're asking the voters to approve as delineated in these documents, then we should let everybody know that that's what we're doing. So we have, I just like clarification of that, because we have the term conceptualization without design plans. So I'd like to know if the voters, when they go on November 7th to vote on the bond referendum, if they're should understand that they're seeking to approve the three specific projects delineated in the notice, as well as the short environmental assessment.
And the flip side of that is in the same vein, the discussions that we had in several sessions, I had asked the question, given the structure that we have here, we have the flexibility to modify the scope of these projects in the hamlets after the bond is passed, and do an adjusted EAF if necessary.
So then that means that the initial EAF can list something, but after the bond is passed, we can actually change the plan as preferred by the residents of said hamlets.
And, you know, the bond resolution itself is broader. It just talks.
Yeah, I just opened it up, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I just wanted to make it clear for the people who
Yeah,
are listening
sure. So,
that there is the main part of the bond is for the engineering plans.
well,
Is
let's
that
let's give an example. Today we heard, you know, that there's more funding going into the 35 update, you know, upgrades, and maybe they'll cover some, you know, crosswalk or something there perhaps, and then, you know, it's, in my mind, it's like, okay, that could free up funds to start thinking about the, you know, a more enhanced sidewalk going towards the school, or maybe in somebody's dream, there's a bike path between Cross River and the town park or something, and we're taking a stab at making some progress on that. So, you know, these are all bike and pedestrian safety enhancements that would fit under the bond language, but it would be a modification of the project that's described in secret.
Well, that's what I need clarification.
Yeah,
Because
no,
it says
I'm-
to use the term flexibility to modify. So we have documents which are specific and are supposed to be the short environmental assessment form by Keller Sessions is essentially attesting to the information being true and accurate. And it's very specific in the projects that it's outlined. There's one for Golden's Bridge as far as crosswalks in a particular area. There's one in Cross River, and there's a bike lane along Route 123 between Glen Drive and the entrance to the shopping center. Those are specific 3 projects which are part and parcel, as I'm reading these documents, which we're asking the voters to approve. So this flexibility to modify the terminology that's been used, mean that after November 7th, if this is approved, that the Vista component talking about a bike lane along Route 123 may vaporize, and there won't be a bike lane proposal.
Right,
That's
all
correct.
it's like, if they decide, come up with a schema for, you know, whole sidewalks system right around the shopping center, then, you know, that to me, it still fits the bond language and everything, but I agree, it's worth asking a question and confirming it again.
Well, I understand the scope of the bond language, which is
Yeah.
general, which I
But then-
very general.
voted for and I was fine with, but now we
Yeah.
have something that's very specific. So
Yeah.
I want to know as a voter, I'm sure the voters of town want to know, is this what the people are voting for in approving the $2.1 million? It is, or it's not,
No,
because
it's not, correct, Greg? They're voting on what's in the bond resolution. That's what they're
Not,
voting for.
not necessarily. Okay,
Well-
this is just for purposes of assessing whether or
Is your
not
mic
there's,
on?
it is.
Okay.
We're assessing whether or not there's a significant environmental impact with the proposed types of improvements. That's all the EAF and the circulation form
And
do.
because it's a coordinated action with the DOT, correct?
That's why the DOT is an interested agency, because
that's-
they'll be a permitting agency
Right,
in any scenario
right.
for what you're doing, but it's not a design, so one way or another, you're going to presumably, I don't know, if the funding passes and you go out to secure design and the project goes out to bid, that can change, and as long as it's within the scope of the authorized borrowing, you're not
Right, the bond
jeopardizing the
resolution.
funding, yeah.
Because
Okay, if
if
you
I-
decide you're gonna
So
do pickleball with it, then you're not.
if I may, there's
Okay.
already been a study that the Vista Hamlet a stewardship council has paid for as far as a plan. So if the bond goes through, we can work on, coordinating to make sure that we can do that if it fits within the scope of the bond.
Purpose of the bond. The specific purposes.
I get that part. I'm
So
just trying to.
It won't be limited, it's
To the
not going to
project
be
that's
limited to the
identified.
project. So each one of these projects that's listed in this document here, they can expand or contract after.
Subject,
We're not locked into this specific project with these specific funds, that this is just one, it could be one element of a bigger project.
subject to further financing, maybe additional borrowing if the case may be.
Or
And
grants.
maybe depending on what you do, additional seeker if the proposed improvements get into areas that weren't contemplated here.
So-
Okay, then you'd be responsible for
So
doing
what's
that.
the legal or other purpose of putting down specific projects within the documentation that we have in front of us? If none of them the intention is that none of them may come to fruition at all. Why are we writing this specificity down in the documents if it's not essentially worth the paper it's written on in going to vote on the referendum for 2.1 million in November 7th?
Because generally what's being contemplated at this time with respect to the presentation that was made for the proposed improvements, the presentation was provided to your bond counsel. The bond counsel then drafted the borrowing authorization based upon that. We wanted it to reasonably mirror what those things were at the time. Okay.
So there's zero predictability as to what the voters are going to be approving on.
They're approving the borrowing for the purposes, I shouldn't say that. They're considering approving the borrowing for the purposes of the improvements that are being contemplated.
Right.
The scope of those.
So if
And
we
then-
change this, the Vista scope, for example, which includes this bike path or multi-use path, I think is what
Yes.
they're calling it. If we decide it's going to be a sidewalk from that crosswalk that's proposed down to
Vista
Oak Ridge Shopping Center, that's going to result in a highway in an application to DOT to be able to do that work.
Absolutely.
And then that's where we could tap into the funds, for the engineering that goes into designing that project.
That's all fine.
Yeah.
That's all well and fine. I have no issue with that. The issue is why are we putting something specific in these documents when November 8th, the whole thing could be ripped up and then we decide to go from scratch for something else? What is the legal purpose or otherwise of putting something specific with the idea of evaluating whether it has a significant environmental impact or not, if there's that's not necessarily any intention to move forward with one or more of the projects that are delineated in the documents before us? I'm confused about that. I don't understand that.
So these documents and these steps are necessary in order for it to actually be an effective bond referendum. The bond referendum it's going to appear on the ballot, but if we don't approve these documents, then no one's really allowed to vote on it. It becomes moot. It becomes,
They'll vote because it's going on the ballot, but the
But-
borrowing will be vitiated
yeah,
if you don't make a secret determination within a certain time.
right. So
And that was in the borrowing resolution. So you had to make a secret determination based on what you know. And what you knew is the presentation, the borrowing was predicated on the presentation, and that EAF has a recitation of what those contemplated improvements are today.
And we could use after, if the voters decide to approve, then we go forward with the study. And then we can apply to grants, say to the county or the state, for grants to cover.
The construction costs, for example.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Or design.
design or.
So can I ask my question?
Yeah.
So here's the sticking point for me. So irregardless of whether we say here tonight that the particular projects that are semi-outlined in this document can be expanded or contracted based on what we find out later after, let's say, the bond referendum is positive and they vote for it, regardless, I think one of the sticking points for many residents who read this is that this is going later on, this is going to somehow stop them from doing more of what they want to do, that that it's in writing, that this is what we were contemplating, that we weren't contemplating anything else. And because it's in writing, and someone's gonna point back to it and say that. Now, to address that concern, why couldn't we take this and make the language broader or more encompassing?
Or
And I
the bond
know,
resolution.
or and I know that I've been informed that this language was taken from a presentation. I don't know what presentation that was, but it wasn't a presentation that I was privy to. Is it a bicycle committee presentation to something?
The presentation listed these previously
What
envisioned.
presentation?
The presentation that Doris Peter
April.
presented is what went to bond council so they can write the bond resolution.
When did Doris, when was this presentation
April
made?
25th.
That was back in April. Yeah.
But, so there were,
I just want to get a handle on what the presentation was and when was it presented? So because I'm having a difficult time recalling, so if I have to go back and pull the video from that particular meeting to know what it is that we're talking about, then I want to be able to do that. So that's what I was trying to figure out, because I think it would make our residents happier if we had a more encompassing description of what they envisioned as the project as opposed to what's here.
April 24th.
Now,
I think the problem is like say in Vista, their long-term vision is a complete connection from East Street all the way up, but that's, clearly not, that's, way beyond the scope of a $700,000 budget to get some work started.
but
So-
no, all these projects are well beyond the scope of a $700,000 budget, dollar budget. We discussed this.
No,
We're
I
looking-
actually did the work and went through, itemized and went through old grants and took benchmark numbers from a bunch of places just to make sure we were sort of in the ballpark.
But I know, but
Yep.
Dan, you
So-
said those numbers were from years ago.
No, but
They're
then
not more
I did-
recent numbers. And we talked about that at one of the meetings, that the numbers were from like 2013 or something
I
like that.
updated stuff and I can provide those. The point was just to make sure that there's a scope that is reasonably within this kind of range. And it wasn't even like, Jan, who put together the EAF, didn't even, the numbers don't have to be included, but the idea was just to kind of home in on a scope which was reasonably around this scale.
Well, what is, I'm trying
We
to
did that.
get my arms around the concept of why are we itemizing specific projects?
Well, you have to-
As a prerequisite to ask the voters
the
to
bond-
support a $2.1 million bond project when there is no indication or commitment or anything that any of these things will actually happen. Why do we have to have what's essentially a factual and legal fiction in this document, which we're submitting to get lead agency status? What is the purpose of, why are we doing it? Why are we going through the exercise of putting something in there if we have no intention to actually go forward and build it?
Well,
We're legally required to have this stuff done.
we know this could be the scope that we end up with. This
that's
is
what's
as
contemplated
Greg just
now.
described, it's an initial.
That's what's being contemplated now. And the
Yeah.
environmental documents have to have some specific improvements.
So we
In
had
order
to
for
define
them
an
to be-
requirement in order to submit the seeker.
When the engineer prepares a secret document, there has to be some described project.
Right.
Can't be just
Oh, I agree.
Pedestrian and
I agree
bicycle
with- I agree
safety
with that.
improvement.
That makes total sense.
They're not,
and all
I
that-
don't think they're fiction, they're what is the engineering. I read it as a placeholder for what we hope to accomplish.
We're not obligating ourselves to do anything aside from having $2.1 million available for anything that comes within the scope of the language. We're not telling the
Mhm.
voters that we have any specific intention before the vote takes place as to what we intend to do and what projects we intend to move forward. And I can't think of another example where we didn't tell the people exactly what we intended to do with a specific amount of money that we were going to
We
spend.
discussed
We
this at
have.
previous sessions.
Yeah, we have.
Right?
Yeah.
And that we were treating this essentially as a starter budget.
It's a pot of money that we can use to help with designing whatever it is we want to build within these three houses.
Which again, that's fine that I support it, but and I supported that, that's fine, but here we're defining it, we're defining it for seemingly a purpose which makes.
Because of the
no
purpose of
sense.
secret, we had to define a project, correct? Correct.
Or
We had to have a project,
So
or
how,
else we can't do it.
Oh, the
We
borrowing's
can't-
gone. If you
Yeah.
don't make a secret determination, the borrowing's
Right.
gone.
I don't know how you could come up with, in good faith, and make a determination that something doesn't have a significantly adverse environmental impact without saying what the project is.
But
Seems like
But if you do additional work in different locations than what's in that EAF, you're gonna have to do further secret.
Right.
Yeah, I
At a future date.
I think the problem that I'm encountering is that sometimes what is required in government is so ass backwards. It makes no common sense, and you still have to do it that way, even though it makes no sense.
So-
This is another example of putting the cart before the horse. It's just absolutely absurd, and it's twisting my brain and making it very difficult for me to go ahead and say yes. Now, look, everyone who's listening knows that I didn't vote for this bond referendum. And the reason why I didn't vote for the bond referendum is because I didn't like the way that was approached. We were told at that last meeting that there were other borrowing considerations or other ways to go about and get the financing that we never as a board had an opportunity to discuss together and weigh the pros and the cons of. But instead, we're presented at the 10th hour saying, well, look, we got to do this by August 7th so that we can notify the Board of Elections, and we have to do it now. We have to do it now. And it made me very uncomfortable to know that there might have been other options that we didn't consider, and had we considered the other options, we may have ended up in the same place, and that there's no guarantee. You know, we're trying to tell the hamlets that everybody's going to get the same amount of money, but you can't guarantee that they're going to get the same amount of money, because one of these projects may end up costing more, one of them may end up costing less, and then you're moving the money around, or you're going to save it for them to use in another area. We can't be specific, and it makes me very uncomfortable to go ahead and do something like this. And now we're in this situation where we're discussing this because we're kind of stuck with the way it works in government, and it's very, very frustrating. So I apologize to all the residents out there who are following this, and hope that you understand my frustration and Rich's frustration, and anyone else who has questions on this. That said, my fellow board members voted for a bond referendum in November. It is what it is. I'm not upset about that. I'm not the type of person that says, well, I'm just going to take my toys and go home, you know, and I'm not going to participate. If this is going to work, I'm going to join with my fellow board members to try to make it work the best way possible, and to get it done the right way. I'm not going to just pull out and say, oh God, it's up to you guys now because I didn't vote for this. I want this to be done the right way. I want these projects to be looked at. I want them to be investigated. I want the engineering studies. I want them to happen. I just really wish that we would take the time required ahead of time to look at everything beforehand, so that we're not always up against the wall and making a decision for time purposes. Now we have to make a decision now by October 18th. And if we don't make a decision by October 18th, then any vote that happens in November is going to be null and void, and we're not going to have the fun. So it's
Yeah. So just to one point regarding the appropriation between hamlets, we had agreed it would be $700,000 per hamlet, right?
we didn't pass a resolution to that end. We can't guarantee that, nor do we know who the decision makers are going to be at that point in time to.
Yeah, right.
We can't hold the hands of those people who may be in our seats 2 or 3 years in the future, because time-wise speaking, by the time the studies are done and we're ready to break, we're lucky if we're having a shovel in the ground in 2025.
So, yeah, so that which brings up on the division of it. Let's say, for sake of argument, Vista or Golden's Bridge runs ahead on the planning process, and they have something that's $1.5 million it's going to cost to bring it to fruition. Does what we discussed, 700 each, which is what the flyer talks about, are we bound by what was said in the flyer that's being distributed to the public, or we throw that out too, based upon how things materialize?
I said we're bound.
You're asking, what really concerns me, again, when it was brought, I was fine with it. Because we're saying exactly what we're looking to do to build momentum, to get money towards whether it's seed money or whether it's moving forward. As to a yet to be developed thing is fine, but now we've submitted documentation defining it very specifically, predicated upon a lot of legwork that was done in the pedestrian and bike committee. So essentially what we're saying is what the work that was done is worthless because we're not going to be bound by it. We're not making any commitment to follow through on it. So it's
Can
a
we
little bit
try to
disingenuous.
parse this in? I don't think, can we parse this into individual, like, questions that you have, because it seems to be running on a little bit. One of them was, you know. whether
Okay,
we have-
I'll ask a
whether-
specific question,
Okay.
What are the voters voting for by way of any specific project for approving a $2.1 million bond resolution on November 7th?
They're not. They're not. They're voting
Right.
to.
Didn't you-
to-
didn't
to
we just
ask
went
for
through that?
a fund in the amount of $2.1 million.
For the purpose of paying the cost of pedestrian and bicycle safety infrastructure improvements throughout the town, including but not limited to construction or reconstruction of roads, sidewalks, crosswalks, installation of traffic signals and signs, replacement of paving markings and other right-of-way improvements in and for the town,
I think
including incidental
if you
expenses next year.
step back and just think of this as a budget, it's, you know, we are going out to the voters to say, you know, that we're getting indications that you guys want to do some work in this area. Tell us if we're right or not. And, you know, here's an initial budget to get some work done. You're saying, like, what happens if
That's fine.
they do a bunch of stuff and you know, Vista has a project that wants to be $1.5 million. Well, you know, that's not in the budget. We need to try to craft within the budget. But I mean, I will say, if we get down there and everybody's excited and, you know, there's more to do, you know, the town board has the ability to bond without going through this process, subject to a permissive referendum. So if, you know, the whole world's excited about expanding this and we got our initial signal from the voters, like, yeah, they're interested in doing this stuff, then we could go forward on that basis, for example.
Then we shouldn't have either we're specifically defining what we're doing or we're not. We can't have it both.
You're definitely
ways.
uncomfortable with that.
We're having it
Got
both,
that.
we're having it both ways. We're making a representation in this based upon the legwork that was done by people in the committee. And we're saying, you know, as you said, flexibility to modify, including eliminated particular. And the language that's in this document, this legal document, coordinated environmental review, the proposed action says Town of Lewisboro Town Board has adopted a bond resolution. And then it goes on to say, to design and construct pedestrian improvements. You go down 3 paragraphs, there's a bike lane. That's not a pedestrian improvement. It's a bike lane. So on one hand, the top of the document is saying we're proposed action for which we're seeking lead agency status is to design and construct pedestrian improvements. Then you go down, the specific thing we put there is a bike lane.
So do you want this language changed to say pedestrian and bike improvements?
To match the bond, that's fine. That's a it's a language issue. Yeah.
Or change bike lane to multi-use.
Well, then it won't match the
I mean, is it
the other
to
information.
be consistent? Why can't it say in the Hamlet centers, including but not limited to crosswalks, whatever it is, to mirror essentially with the bond language?
Because you can't do a seeker report on some amorphous, just sort of, you know, generalities.
Right,
Right,
you're asking
but
to
that-
you're asking to have a negative declaration about its adverse environmental impact. For a
Correct.
project that you're not committing to go through in any way, shape, or form.
Well, your project which could be changed. And if
If
it
you
is
build it,
changed,
that's your determination. But if you don't, the determination is moot. But all you're deciding tonight is who will be the.
Will be the lead agency, correct? I
Who
think
else
we're
would be?
deviating from that.
You'd be the
No,
only entity that
no
would.
issue as far as that we should be lead agency, but.
That's all
So
you're.
that document, let's vote on that, then.
Yeah, but the support documents include the document that Rich is referring to, as well as the short.
Right.
environmental assessment form. So it's,
So Rich,
this resolution has to be submitted with these
Yeah.
two supporting documents to DOT or to
DOT, DEC.
DEC.
That's it.
Either you're gonna tell the people with specificity what we intend to do, or you're gonna be straightforward with the people and say, we can't define it. It's gonna come within the parameters of the bond resolution with projects and everything else, project or projects to be defined at a later time based upon the processes.
but we are communicating in every way we can that the usage of the funds will be subject to additional meetings and refinement of scopes and, you know, scoping out and things like that. But fine, there's a pro forma seeker report based on the scopes as contemplated today, as Greg put it, and they could be changed. And if they're changed in such a way as to significantly deviate from needs and that calls for a revised or a new seeker, then we'll do a new seeker.
But it's not contemplated. There's no commitment to go forward with it as it exists. I was on the planning board for several years. What happens is a minimum introduction of information based upon a potential project that somebody wants to go forward, an applicant, they pay a fee, they submit certain documents, and that triggers the process. Here, this it's not obligating anybody to do anything. Aside
Well,
from hoping that the two.
We're not obligated to do anything actually, in the sense that, you know, we're being authorized to be able to borrow and execute projects, but that doesn't force us to go out and borrow.
It's also subject to the vote.
Yeah, I mean,
Once you kick it out to the ballot, if it's a no, then.
The issue is the language of the description of the projects. I understand. I don't like it. I understand the process. I would like the language not to be so vague as that it can't be definable, but something a little better than this. Specific, I mean, I'm focusing on Vista, but something a little more specific that, you know, the multiple use, not bike lane, but a multiple use. And if it goes with the understanding that it goes Route 123 from the entrance to the shopping center down to East Street, what difference does it make if it says that? Because the scope of the project could change. We've all now said that at any time. So if we say that that's the scope of the project, I think that would make the residents who worked on the project up to this point.
My concern
Happier.
was that I expected if, you know, people are looking at this, that there should be some, it should look reasonably realistic.
But the thing is, you know,
And the
the question I have, is there any logic to including a different project in Vista, since there's already been an engineering study done for the people of Vista?
It was not really an engineering study. There are sketches of, you know, various.
It's an architect's sketch.
Yeah,
Like for Golden.
and there were, it's like, I of those, I picked the one that was like the simplest, because the others are like, oh, what, you know, do you know that if you have a bike path here, you need to have 2 lanes, it needs to be a minimum 7 to 8 feet wide, and then, but then you have another one looping. So there was like stuff to work out. So I just picked a segment like, this is really this from here to here, boom. Just so we have something pro forma. It was one of their 6 sketches that they had.
I'm aware of the project.
Like for Golden's Bridge, one thing that if we're being specific, one thing that would be, I think, incredibly beneficial, if you have a sidewalk going from either the Colony to Fairmont directly towards the train station, plugging into Wild Oaks, where
That's
full disclosure, I live, that's something that's, you're talking about, you know, between 300 and 400 families. And that would be, you know,
And that's one of the
the density component.
And I think that's, you know, once
We
we
said it's
get
not
together
here,
with the.
it's not in this, then it's not in the specific.
Well, it's gonna be an either or thing, because if you're gonna do the light timings, the crosswalks and the sidewalk extension into the shopping center, that's, you know, you'd be lucky if you can get that all done for the 700,000. You know, or you could say, I just want a path from the intersection to Hall Street, or, you know, and that's my project. So, you know, when I have to get together with the community and hold some community meetings, get input and, you know, get the sense of whether they want one or the other to start with and make some decisions.
But you're saying two different things. You're saying the language matters and the language doesn't matter. I mean, that's basically where we are. If the language is more broad, right, and that makes the residents happy, or the project is more expansive, again, using the example of Vista, right? What difference does it make to anyone other than the residents to know that at least their vision is reflected in this particular support document? But wait, we just finished saying that once we get to the other side and this bond resolution is potentially passed, and we're on the side of where we're issuing bonds and we're making a project, that those particular projects can either expand or contract. So if they're more expansive now, but then they need to, I mean, 700,000, we're saying that we're going to dedicate 700,000 to the startup of each one of these hamlets and their vision, right? That's what we're saying. It's just a stepping stone in all of these. 700,000 is not going to finish any one of these projects, albeit if we get
So
the
why would
state
you
to
want
do
to?
something on 21. So why wouldn't we want to start with a bigger description and then a smaller?
Well, based on what you just said, you would want to start with a smaller description, something that fits within the budget of the
Well, also,
bond.
one of the issues that people are bringing up is that people are like reading this and they're thinking, okay, that's it. And
That's
if-
right.
And if we write like, we're gonna do this, gold plated bike path from East Street to Elmwood Road, and it's written there, then we'll have the same communication
problem-
issue where they'll think, oh, well, you said you were gonna do that.
The
So,
problem is,
you know,
if you're not answering the question as you quantified it, the $66 to $70 per household for this, if you're not answering the question as to what will that $70 per household get me as a resident of Lewisboro, then you shouldn't have specific points, as I've gone circular, and I've said it already, shouldn't have the specific parts in there.
You
So what-
have said
so-
that, and we've said that there has to be.
So council has
something
determined
is-
that the language here is sufficient for us to move forward with voting on the lead agency. So I think that's what we need to do. And. Okay, because the intent of that is to get this on the ballot and then let the people decide. Right?
Okay, so
I
did
mean,
you already move?
we're discussing
We-
what
we
specific
have-
projects,
We're
so.
on discussion. All
It's
right,
been
so-
moved and seconded.
Okay.
Yes.
Ready or is there anything?
Yeah.
Okay, so, so no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are we doing roll call or something?
Yeah, we should do a roll call.
Okay.
I think the
Okay.
town board should be lead agency. I just have a problem with the supporting documents. Oh.
Dan, yes.
Yes.
Come back to me.
Tony,
I'm a yes.
Richard,
No,
Mary,
Yes.
Andrea.
No.
Okay. Okay. All right, next we have. We're done.
thank you for answering my questions, Dan, appreciate it.
What'd you say?
No, I thank Dan for answering my question.
Oh, yeah.
You send me updated financial.
Okay, so we go to public comment number 2. Anybody here would like to make a comment? How about on Zoom?
Yes. It's gonna be Simone. Simone, I'm asking you to unmute.
I wanted to just discuss the water. I'm happy that another election is upon us, so the water issue at Oak Ridge has made its way to tonight's agenda, however short. I was told several meetings ago during polling of the board that I was the only one that was complaining about it. Everyone else is fine with it. In the last month, I've walked around and spoken to many of the residents at Oak Ridge, and still can't find any of these happy people. In fact, people are irate. I'm looking for my mother's new neighbor, Assemblyman Burdick, to ask him, but haven't had the pleasure as of yet. I am, however, always hopeful by the grace of God, my mom now 85 years old, that she will one day experience that feeling of joy when you turn on your faucet and drink a glass of water that won't send you back to the hospital in 2023 in Westchester County in New York State in the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone. Carol Cernak, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, it's Carol Sternak in South Salem. Can you hear me?
Yes, Carol.
I would just like to say that this pedestrian and bicycle issue is, in my mind and everything I know about construction, is fiscally irresponsible to put this to the voters without knowing the full scope of the work and the estimated costs. What if the estimates come in well over the $2 million? When do you stop asking for money from the taxpayers? And I would like to thank Andrea and Rich for their looking out for the taxpayers. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Carol. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, John. All right, next we have approval of claims. So I'd like to motion that we approve claims.
So
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Polling of the board. Let's start with Andrea.
Okay, first, I wanted to start with this flyer, which has to do with the bond resolution that we were just discussing. That was put together by my co-councilman Dan Welsh. I emailed the board earlier. I know I'm very impressed with the layout of it all. I just feel that the tone of it is a little one-sided. This is supposed to be informational, but to me, it sounds like it's more like an advertisement why our residents should vote yes. And I feel it should be a little neutral. That's my opinion on this. I know it was intended to be informational, but that's when I read it. To me, it felt more like it was advertising to please vote yes. That's one. Two, we talked a couple times tonight about the ARPA funds. And we had in passing several times before the last budget last year, we talked about ARPA funds and what we could do about the ARPA funds. And I know myself as well as Mary has asked about the ARPA funds. And I know that I have asked for us to have a work session on the ARPA funds. And here we are a year later, and we still haven't had a work session about the ARPA funds or any potential projects for the ARPA funds. And, tonight we saw in just, a preliminary look at the budget, we have maybe ARPA funds for the pickleball courts. Maybe we'll get a WIA grant for the pool, but, what my personal feeling is that everything that goes into the pool is probably should take a priority with the ARPA funds. But little by little, we're chipping away at these ARPA funds over the past, well, not me, because I've always voted no, chipping away at the ARPA funds this past year. And now with the state of how our government is in, we're at risk of potentially losing those funds if the government claws back and because the government shuts down. And if we don't spend them, then we won't have them. And I really think that I would like this added to the next town board agenda to talk about and determine what we're going to use these funds on and at least get them designated sooner than later for fear that we may lose them. So that's my second thing. My third thing is that as liaison for the police department, I was asked to make some announcements from Chief Alfano. So to start this week, March Child Passenger Safety Week, and the Lewisboro Police Department will be checking and or installing child car seats on Wednesday, September 20th, 2023, between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. by one of our certified police officers free of charge. I would assume that would be at the police station. It doesn't say the town park. Lewisboro Police Department Sergeant Llewellyn secured a grant in the amount of $22,916 from the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant for the LiveScan equipment, which is an inkless electronic means of capturing fingerprints in digitalized format. Fingerprints are scanned into a computer using advanced technology that produces perfect fingerprint images each and every time, and it would replace the old way of using ink. And for those of you who don't know and are luckily not involved in the criminal justice system, most agencies have left ink a long time ago and have been doing it this way. So that would be a great upgrade. That is going to be a great upgrade for our police department so that they could run people when and if arrested. Third, Mr. William Lauder of SD Lauder was extremely generous and delighted to donate $40,000 to the town of Lewisboro Police Department in order to help them support an upgrade to their radios. And I believe the cost of those radios is upwards of $100,000. We have not great radios for our police, and unfortunately, they use their cell phones to talk to each other. We all know how great cell service is across the town. So when we're dealing with emergency situations, I would really like, and I'm sure many of you would like, our police officers to have radios that work so they can communicate across the town. So that's all I have for this evening.
Okay, thank you. Dan, let you go next.
Great news about the grants, and I agree with you about the use of the ARPA funds. In fact, at the time, that's what I was saying, because I know some of my colleagues were saying, let's not use them all, let's bond for some of it. And like my point at the time was like, why, you know, you don't have to pay interest on that. Why bother bonding, you know, just and paying that interest? So I think, yes, we should just go ahead and where we have capital needs, go ahead and use it sooner rather than later, rather than and defer some borrowing. So that's that. I just want to say that I was at the Fossil Fuels March in New York yesterday, and there were a lot of Lewisboro people there. I know, because I've seen their postings, and it was very inspiring. There was tens of thousands of people, and the most inspiring was like a huge number of young folks, and they were basically saying, holding our feet to the fire now to get this all done. So I'm re-energized with that.
Okay, Mary.
I had the honor of attending the 9/11 ceremony at Vista Firehouse, and it was a very moving experience, and it was an honor to be there. I also attended a library fair in a variety of ways. Didn't get too terribly wet in the dunk booth, but yes, I did. It was all for a good cause and a lot of fun. And thank you to the whole community for making difference. The Parks and Rec Department will be having on October 1st a new resident welcoming party at Fox Valley Park, and cider and donuts and hot chocolate and lots of information and connections to be made. So please attend. And I'm sure there are other things, but it's been a long evening. So thank you.
Rich.
Thanks, Tom. Again, joining in Mary's thanks for the library fair, which thank goodness the weather helped out. It was a great day as usual. I had to do my parking stuff and also did my inaugural dunk tank experience. A lot of our younger people have a very good arm as they saw as they went repeatedly into the water. It's great. It's a great event. Lashana Tova 5784 for those who observed.
And for even those who don't.
And even for those who don't, that's right. That's right. And going chronologically, Lewisboro Lions have the Oktoberfest, second annual Oktoberfest coming up. I believe that's October 21, Saturday, 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. And I know Tony will be there. I'll be there. It'll still be a great event. Hopefully, a tremendously successful one. Please look for your opportunity to purchase tickets. Pre-sales are going on now, and please be there.
All right, thanks, Rich. And that Oktoberfest will be preceded by a car show. Just trying to squeeze that in.
Bringing the Tony collection out there.
Exactly, yes. Yeah, and sorry I missed the the library fair. I was out of the country. I actually had somebody text me to say I had my $20 ready to dunk you. And so I said, use it on Rich instead.
I don't know.
Oh, see.
I think I know who did that, actually, yes. Yeah, right.
So yeah, so sorry I missed that. Yeah, a couple of things. Yeah, thanks to William Lauder and the $40,000, 40,000, yeah,
Yeah,
the dollar
40.
donation towards the police radios. The actual cost, Andrew, is about $420,000. That's for both highway and police. So we are looking at options. We have a proposal that it's about 250 for police and 150 for highway. So we definitely need to figure out how to pay for this. The $40,000 definitely is a big help. Yeah, but thank you very much, Mr. Lauder, for the donation. The regarding the ARPA, yeah, sure. We can certainly have a work session, probably not the next meeting because we're still finishing up some of the budget stuff this week. Right, yeah. But we did allocate, and I think the board voted unanimously for the last chunk of it that we allocated to pool equipment, generators. Yeah, that was a unanimous vote. Forget the amount on that, but it was
$50,000 for pool repair.
yeah. So, and then we had to Dan's point, rather than bond for the remainder of the new playground, we used funds from ARPA. The clawback, I'd like to see where you read that about the clawback, because I don't think they're going to come in and take the money that they've already given to us, or money that we've already spent.
So what do we have left?
About $535,000.
All right, so let's just.
So we can
hold that up
Spend it for the
against the
government.
capital list and, you know.
Yeah, and I've had discussions both with Nicole and the chief about that, but yeah, we can certainly have a
We have to
good
at least
discussion.
designate it by 2024, don't we?
The end of 2024, December 2024, and it has to be spent by 2026, December 2026.
We
Yeah.
can make that work.
Yeah, but if you find any language about the clawback, send it to me, because I have not seen that anywhere. So that's that. I do have, this was Perry Wolf, my chief of staff, pointed this out to me in Westchester Magazine. The article was best places to live, I think. Yeah.
9 best places in Washington.
9 best places in Lewisboro made the list. So, pick up Westchester Magazine and I'll make sure that this is included in the minutes. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It'll take a while. But basically it says that it's great to live in Lewisboro. And it's a quiet sophistication with city accessibility. So there, yeah, good information there. And regarding the chief of staff and Simone's comment, yes, prior chief of staff has retired. Kerry Wolf was working as a part-time account clerk. I brought her into the new position and we ended up hiring someone else for the part-time account clerk position. Ruggiera Carvalho is her name. And in fact, we hired 2 more people in highway. So we have been hiring folks as needed. And so hopefully that answers Simone's questions. Regarding the water, yes, it's, we got the approval from EPA and New York State EFC, which are the 2 entities or agencies that we're getting money from to go ahead and go to bid on the project. So that's in the works. It's going to take a little more time. But yeah, we will have that added filtration system that'll mitigate the PFAS issue with Oak Ridge. So that's the status on that. And in terms of further announcements here, the next town board meeting is Tuesday, September 26th. That's next week at 7:30 p.m. here at the townhouse. And now I'd like to motion to go into executive session to discuss a legal matter.
Great.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming out, folks here, folks on Zoom.